Enjoy yourself.
I'm gonna go kill a dragon.
As one does. You know, we're gonna go kill dragons.
See you guys on the flip side. You wanna come with me?
And on that note, Dovahkiin!
We're due for
Just lets us know we're mortal.
due for Ferda, dude.
Ferd up! And just like a red, white, and blue phoenix rising from the ashes of political bipartisanship, we are back to Salt of the Streets podcast.
This is Saturday, January 30th, 2:06 p.m., 2021. I said that episode 101.
That was slick. Welcome back, everybody, to the Salt of the Streets podcast, your one and only source for social and political commentary and all the weekly news, pop culture, and sports that you can handle. And the best part about the whole deal is we built it from the ground up for people like you and me, the everyday normal person. So come down and join us as we discuss life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and continue our endless efforts to bridge the gap between people and information. As always, I am Colin.
I am Donovan.
And today we have about the most epic thing that we've ever done on Salt of the Streets. We have a 100%. Well, I mean, I'm sure we'll probably bring in some of our own dice here, but we got a listener request show up the yin yang. We got multiple topics from multiple listeners, and we're really jazzed about it. We covered them during the pre-show.
Yes.
We're going to be talking death penalty. We're going to be talking we're going to be revisiting the Chaz Chop.
Yes.
And some of the individuals in the Chaz
Chop.
And then we're also going to be talking about some of the
State
where we're at
reopening.
with the state COVID stuff and where we're going, because there's new things. I remember back when there was like 5 stages of reopening, then there were subcategories. Now there's only 2 phases of
The
reopening,
dials.
apparently.
Remember
The dials, bro. The dials. I loved the dials because they were totally subjective and they were color coordinated from blue to orange. There was no numbers. There was no nothing. But anyways, so we're going to get into all that. And I think, and we're going to have some new hills to die on because we missed that last episode.
GameStop.
GameStop is definitely going to come up because we
fuck the
have to
government.
talk about it. And fuck those corporatist, elitist pieces of shit that have been stealing our money for decades. Fuck them all.
It's pretty dark, bro.
It is so
My
dark.
mom- we lost our house. Not in 2008, but as a result of the 2000, like the whole
whole
deal,
thing.
people getting houses
Yeah,
they shouldn't have
the
got.
massive recession.
And it wasn't until a few years later that we actually lost our house. So, like, to come from that and to see this going on, it's like even like The Big Short, you know what I'm saying? Like watching The Big Short, and you're like, we literally like it's
just it there.
yeah. So to see. It's so obvious, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Partially because social media exists. You know, there are many things that go into this. Partially because they were so blatant about it, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah, there's a whole new calculus because of what we as like civilians know what the internet to be and how to utilize it and stuff compared to like what these elitist fucks think that the internet is and how it works.
the power of Reddit and fucking I loved my favorite thing about this whole thing. We'll get into it later. My favorite thing is Redditors calling attendees. I love them.
Attendees?
Tendies.
Tendies.
Tendies is the word that they're using for the profits that they're making off of GameStop because they're buying chicken tenders with it.
Oh, get some tendies.
Tendies, bro. Yes, the tendies are coming in. There's a
love
song. There's a song that's been created about the GameStop deal that talks about the Tendy Man coming. Yeah. Oh, it's great. Yeah. Oh, it's
And
awesome.
Can you have picked a better company to like take the namesake of? Because what is GameStop's? I don't know if it's like their what you would call their motto or something. It's power to the players.
Yes.
It's like if this is not fucking power to the players, I don't know what is, buddy.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to talk about it. I think we're gonna get really, really into depth with it next episode when we have Larry Dixon on.
Yeah, when Larry's here.
But
Especially
we're gonna
because
go over
there's-
what's been happening because
Yeah.
it's too hot, it's too new, it's too big.
Well, there's
to just let go. I
there's
think.
likely to be a lot that happens with it over the next 2 weeks.
Yes.
You know, so
because it's
I'll
still
be
going on right
interested.
now.
Yeah.
Like people are still quote unquote holding the line
Right.
in various stock options.
Hold the line.
Hold
Have you
the
seen
line. Diamond hands?
Dave Portnoy? You know, is the president of Barstool Sports.
Check.
Do you follow him on Instagram or anything like that?
I don't. Is
He's
he
been-
on Twitter? I know he's
Yes,
on
he's
Twitter.
on
I feel
Twitter
like-
and Instagram. He's been posting these really great videos that I'm sure that other people are making. That's, you know, his body and these like Elon Musk or like his face and Elon Musk's face and like all these other people like it just cut onto, you know, images of of people standing around like watching rockets take off and shit like that. And it's awesome. It's really great.
All right, I'm officially following him now.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of what
He does
Dave
the
Portnoy is
daily
doing.
pizza review, right, too?
Yes, yeah, the pizza every day, and he's posting videos of the FaceTimes that he's doing with people when he's saving their businesses. He's doing all that shit every day.
Yeah.
It's pretty
literally
great.
going. I think we talked about that last episode, right?
Yes.
Going around saving people's businesses, man.
Tens
Just-
of millions of dollars that
It's
they have
absolutely
raised
insane.
now, just from straight donations, doing the work of the federal government. It's pretty disgusting.
Doing the work of the
watch.
government.
I'm here for it. We've been talking a lot about it. You can see all of this conversation, all of these tweets and everything that we do on our Twitters and all our social medias. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. He is at Big Bird Offie on both of those things. Oh, I talked about Clubhouse and the social media thing and didn't even like say what our names were. I got Salt of the Street on Clubhouse. Have you signed up for Clubhouse or did you just get invited to it?
I downloaded the app,
Okay.
and I haven't created anything yet.
Well, I stole Salt of the Street.
So hopefully I'll be Big Bird Offie. Because
So-
I like to, unlike you, I like to maintain that single.
Well, now on Twitter and Clubhouse, it's the same thing because it's Salt
Word.
of the Streets was too long,
Word.
so it's Salt of the Street. On
Have you
Twitter
even,
and Clubhouse?
and no shade intended, there's no, I'm just pure curiosity. Have you looked into possibly changing your alpaca on Instagram? Or are you just going to roll with that?
Well, we already have
Because it's kind of a thing.
the Salt
Right.
of the Streets Instagram. I guess I could try and get.
This
Salt
is
of
why-
the Street.
Yeah, we've
on
done this
Instagram.
before. We've done this before.
Well, I could try and get Salt of the Street on Instagram, and then it would be the same thing. But
then
then,
no
but then
matter-
it would be a one-letter
right.
difference between our company one and my,
And if-
and my personal.
And then
one.
what happens is people that don't remember are going to be hitting up your personal all the time.
Exactly.
They're trying to do
Exactly.
that. Yeah, no, maybe we'll keep that degree of separation in there. That seems healthy.
Well, and the reason that it's like that on Twitter is because that was when you first said that, like the phrase "Salt of the Streets"
Yeah.
to me. I was
you
like, "Oh, I
jump in.
gotta snag that."
Yep.
And Twitter was the first place that I was like, "I know that it will be gone when I go to get it,"
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. Well, it can't be because I stole it already, but so
You didn't steal it. You claimed
I
it.
claimed it. I don't know whether or
Boom.
not it would
Plant
still
the
be there.
flag.
Like if I tried to go and get it now, but
No, you should
I've
keep,
had
you
it
should
for
keep alpaca.
like
Plus,
5
it's a good
years.
conversation starter.
Well, I've had no. I mean, Salt of the Street. I've had
Oh,
Alpaca
yeah.
Donovan since high school.
Yeah.
That was like from
Alpaca was.
my getting shit house days. That was from because we used to
Yeah.
like we would hit each other up, be like, "Hey, you trying to kick it? Alpaca bowl."
Yep.
Yeah.
We haven't told that story in a long time.
Yeah.
I feel like
but
once
that's
every
what,
6 months, we should like
where that
reinfuse
came
that
from.
into the listeners.
We
You know
just
what I mean?
when we were talking to Larry about our taxes, I just told him about like where the name Salt of the Streets came from, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't even know." He was like, "That's so fucking sick," and I was like, "Oh yeah, bro, like we're fucking levels
salty.
complicated."
Salty motherfuckers.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Get salty with it.
this week, I feel like there was something that I was gonna. Lauren Culp. Okay, so Casey gave me Lauren Culp's book. Lauren Culp wrote a book.
She's got a book?
Yes.
That motherfucker can spell?
It is definitely a
surprising.
book that you would give to high schoolers. You can see the way that it's written.
Very big
know.
print.
Big print, big. So,
I mean,
and
he's
I'm
from
not trying
Okanagan,
to.
isn't
I'm
he?
not trying to like pimp.
Your bride fell
Lauren
out of
Culp
your book.
or anything. That's my bookmark.
American Cop.
American Cop. Yeah. So
We
Casey
people.
gave this to me, and I'm like halfway through it. It's pretty okay.
Of course, Casey would have that book.
There are and Casey. I
All
don't
I'm
know.
saying.
I don't remember where. Anyway,
Of course Casey has that
gave
book.
it to me to read. It's pretty okay.
Hmm.
He obviously says some shit that's.
Buy brand new paperback on Amazon for $12.59.
There you go.
Prime.
So he obviously says some stuff in here that's I don't necessarily agree with, but he like makes a real hard line at America not being a democracy. Like we're a republic, and
He's got a forward by Ted Nugent. Is that in that book?
Yes.
That version? Holy
Yeah.
shit, how did he do that?
here I'll read it. It's just short.
Quick little thing.
Freedom is not free. This is the forward by Ted Nugent, just so everybody knows. Freedom is not free, and in this dastardly culture war raging across the United States, America needs warriors now more than ever. We the people who genuflect at the altar of the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights salute Republic Washington law enforcement hero Lauren Culp as a rare leader in this fight for the soul of our country by refusing to violate his sacred oath as all too many others in government have. There have been way too many flag-draped coffins to ignore the price paid in the name of the U.S. Constitution, and Lauren Culp is a shining example of how our founding fathers hoped all Americans would be. Let it be known by all good men and women that the very integrity of this sacred experiment in self-government will be determined by those willing to stand strong at every Concord bridge, no matter what or how it presents itself. The America we know and love will stand or fall based on how many Lauren Culps heed the call.
Freedom boner. Holy shit,
Nugent.
Ted. That dude knows what's up. That's rather intense.
It's super intense.
But like I said, freedom boner.
What does genuflect mean? Because I read it the first time when I read this, but I didn't look it up. I was genuflect
means lower one's body briefly by bending one knee to the ground, typically in worship or as a sign of respect. So in other words, bending the knee.
So he wants to say kneel, but he really didn't want to. Because I bet this was around the time
that it was used in again. Now that you've officially closed the book and probably lost the spot, my bad.
We the people who genuflect at the altar of the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Salute Republic Washington law enforcement hero Lauren Culp as the rare leader in this fight.
Because you can't say bend the knee because the connotation's so bad. So you say genuflect to say that
probably.
you bow to the Constitution. And
interesting.
And I will just say this: if you are
very interesting.
If you are idolizing and worshiping the Constitution and the Bill of Rights of the United States, you probably have your priorities wrong, because that is not the altar of worship is not where those two things belong.
Yeah,
they belong instilled within like the embodiment of the societal soul, not something that should be worshipped. It's
the body politic,
boom,
if you will.
Oh, look at that! Should I put pinky out, motherfucker?
So
that's interesting.
So I started reading this book partially because Casey gave it to me. I'm trying to read more, like in the evenings. I started journaling again, and so
I started reading during the evenings too.
Yeah, so I'm doing this and reading the newspaper and
yours is much more productive
writing
than
in
mine.
my journal. I'm trying to be more productive because I feel like I just get so upset with myself. I feel like I'm wasting my time.
I've been reading manga at night.
That's better than nothing. It's better than fucking.
I know.
You know
I figure
what
if that
I'm
gets me in the habit of getting in bed every night and opening a book of some kind,
exactly.
Boom.
That's why I read this book.
Whatever book
that you could easily give to a bunch of high school kids because of. But the way that he writes is not. I could write a better book than Lauren Culp did, and I'm not like he's a fucking idiot. I mean, he has the writing of somebody. He even says like I love to write, and I write all the time, and I whatever, and that's so he loves to write, but he's not that good at writing.
You know the difference between an author or a writer and a non-writer? Somebody who writes.
You could,
because there's a lot of people that talk about writing,
Words.
but never actually finish something. Even the size of this, which is highly spaced out and stuff like that.
Yes.
If this was fiction, it would be called a novella.
Yeah.
Because it's not a certain length, but he's a published author because he wrote. He actually went through and wrote.
I'm published on our website.
Whoop, whoop. Yeah, same.
And I
Same
feel
piece.
confident that you could go through our website and pick a random piece of writing from either you or I, and it would be of generally better quality than this here.
Yeah, it could be.
Not that this is a terrible book. But like I say, so he lays out like a really clear line about like America's not a democracy, it's a republic. And the founders hated democracy and like very adamant about this, which is true. You know what I'm saying? But then he starts drawing a line of like, he starts quoting all of these different like socialist leaders and thinkers and stuff like that. And I told Jordan one of the things I found really funny was he quotes Mikhail Gorbachev, but he actually quotes a quote from his book that's in a magazine that he read. So he doesn't cite the book, he cites the magazine that had this quote from the book in it.
Interesting.
Why would you not just go back to the book and cite the book itself?
Because
you've never read it. You've just read this quote from this book and you've decided that you don't like it, so you're going to use it in this. Which is like, is fine, but at least make it look like you know what I'm saying? And so that's what I'm talking about when I'm like, the shit is not even
age,
like,
that he might have lived through that. Maybe that's just a recalled lived
experience.
experience.
But he cites the magazine is what I'm saying. Like in there, he quotes the book and then cites the magazine that had the quote from the book in it.
Yeah, that's what
I'm saying. Why don't you at least just cite the book? You don't have to say that you read it from a magazine. Just cite the book.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's Lauren Culp, bro.
But that's what I'm saying.
What magazine? Do you remember?
I do not remember.
Because that would be interesting too. Because maybe what magazine it was holds a specific weight to why he was quoting the magazine.
Potentially.
Because of what type of magazine it was or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah,
Or it's
no,
just
I don't
Lauren Cope
remember.
and he didn't do that extra mile.
So the
dive
line
into
that he's
the book.
trying to draw is all of these quotes refer to democracy from the socialist leaders. And so he's like, they're all like, oh, the first step to socialism is democracy. So he's like, our founders hated democracy because it's always going to go to socialism. Democracy is always going to go to socialism. Which I'm like,
democracy is going to look more like France.
well, right. So I'm like, granted, if your end goal is socialism, your first step is democracy.
Yep.
But that's not to say that democracy is always the first step to socialism. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's the argument that he's presenting.
It's definitely
in
not.
this book.
Democracy is definitely not. I will tell you what is the first step always to socialism. Populism.
Word.
Just so you know.
So
Historically. That's
so he
how it
does
goes.
that to make the case against the initiative process in Washington State because that's a Raleigh Democratic process and not a Republican process. And so, we're turning into socialists
Yeah.
because we're ruling ourselves by the democracy.
For fuck's sakes, Lauren. This is why you didn't fucking win, dude. Because you missed the step here.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not terrible, but it's not, this isn't it.
I'm gonna suggest a book that you read. How about this? Since you don't like to read, I mean, shouldn't say that because I don't know if he doesn't like to read, but I would assume that he doesn't have time because he's super busy. He likes to write. So listen to the podcast by a man named Dan Carlin called "The Death Throes of the Republic," and explains how Rome essentially became an empire, which I believe started out as an excuse to tell the story of Cleopatra, but ultimately ended up, because that's so Dan Carlin.
That's just
by the
who
way.
he is.
But anyways, and it'll explain to you what the true problems with a republic are compared to democracy, and then you fill in the blanks and you realize why we are not a republic and why we are not a democracy, but why we are a democratic republic.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if we were just a republic, all the senators and all the congressmen, they wouldn't they don't have to listen to us. They just get to do whatever the fuck they want once they're in power. Which is why we have the fucking initiative in this is why you lost, dude, because you didn't do your fucking homework.
Almost. He was almost there. He's almost there.
You want to know why Governor Inslee is still Governor Inslee? Because you didn't do your fucking homework on how this is supposed to work, and this is why you failed every goddamn debate you went into because you were ill-prepared and you had these highfalutin ideas that you could not put across the finish line because you did not do your homework.
So I've been reading this for like 2 days and I'm halfway through it. So I'm definitely going to be done by the next time.
It's probably a pretty good read, I bet.
It's not bad,
You know.
but I'll definitely be done by the next time that we're here. So I'll give a full review
Nice.
on it. The level of, like I said, the level of vocabulary is not super high, and there's a lot of and I'll explain why. And here's why, but 3 paragraphs in a row, like he'll say it to kind of explain what he's going to say. It's a very, and I'm not trying to be a dick, but it's very traditional high school in the way that's tell them what you're going to tell them and then tell them what you told them. A very 3 paragraph organization, but expanded over a whole chapter.
And unfortunately, most people would probably need that to actually grasp some of the basic concepts you're going to lay down.
And it's definitely, this is for people who have a really no understanding of really what the Constitution is.
You want to dip your toes into the constitutional waters?
There's
American
a lot of direct quotations to the amendments and stuff like that. It's in case you forgot what it says,
right
let me
there.
explain to you, the history in case you didn't know. A lot of shit like that. That's definitely made for people who just don't really know that much about it. So, which is fine. But I'll come back. We'll see what's up. This is going to be my gateway into reading. I'm not sure what my next book is going to be. I think that I'm going to reread 12 Rules for Life. And I think that will be my next one. And then I'll be ready to take the full leap back into reading all the time. Yeah.
Wait.
So, and I still have my
pre-order
copy
the new
and
one?
shit. I did not.
12 more?
I did
Rules
not.
for Life?
No. But I knew that it's coming out. And that's partially why I decided that would be my next one. It's because I knew that his new book is coming out, 12 More Rules for Life. I don't know if you knew that. And so...
Yeah, what's the subtitle to that?
I'm not sure. But this will be a new thing that I'm doing because I'm really going to try and read more. Not go over all my books, but at least talk about the books that... Oh, boom. but at least talk about the books that I'm reading, and then maybe it'll make Colin read too. See what happens. We're trying to talk
Ouch.
more about
Beyond Order.
Beyond Order.
Yeah.
Not you said you're trying to read more. That's
I am.
That's the only reason I'm saying that.
Yep.
And
And
we've
right
been
now,
trying
yeah.
to double headers. We gotta pimp the
Doubleheaders!
double headers. Jesus Christ! Last weekend we did the second double header Instagram live thing that we're doing, where we both are on Instagram live double header. My parents, or my mom and Micah, both texted me and were like, "You look so stoned," and I just took that dab before. I was also super tired. That was the day.
I was like, it's 8:30, bro. That's like a half hour past your bedtime.
That's what I'm saying. Old man. So
I was so bummed, by the way, because if y'all have watched that one, or you will watch, you'll notice I start the podcast in a different place than I end the podcast.
Yeah.
And that's because I wanted to do. I was right outside my window, right there, and I had the table set up, I had the chair set up, and I was going to sit outside and smoke my cigar while we did the double header, and I was going to make like the thing for doing the double header.
Yeah.
Rain, shine, doesn't fucking matter. I'd be out there.
Cigars.
It didn't work out. I wonder if I opened the window. Maybe like the Wi-Fi was reflecting off
It's
the
fucking.
glass.
We talked about it afterwards.
know.
Wi-Fi is bullshit.
It is.
It's nonsense.
It's a conspiracy.
No, it's a fucking conspiracy.
It's fucking
A fucking window is gonna. That's
on.
bullshit. No, I don't
Glass
know. It
does
doesn't.
tend to be highly reflective. So.
Bullshit. Anyway, this week.
But what do we do during those double headers, Donovan?
Oh, we talk mostly about the things that we're doing when we're not consuming politics. So, like, we talked about video games and stuff that we were playing last time, and some shows and stuff that we were watching. So,
And I'll say this too: it's actually been kind of a lifeline to me, because it reminds me to partake in other things,
Yes.
other than politics.
Yeah.
Because you realize, I mean, how many times do we do this? We sit down during the pre-show and be like, "What'd you do this week?" I'm like, I
don't
worked,
know.
and then I
Yeah.
just did, show prep and shit. That's all.
Yes.
I'm always plugged in.
just focused on
Yeah.
this.
And then that's it. It has pushed me to try to do other things throughout the week, to make
good.
time for other things that are not political, which is what you'll notice off to your right there. There's the Zaku model.
Oh, yeah.
I discovered that you actually have to wash these models, by the way, before you put them together, because there's some kind of weird residue on them from when they press the plastic. There's some kind of lubricant agent, so that they come out of the molds.
Oh.
So I washed it, and then I bought this little diorama set there that's got like trees and
Fucking nice.
water and shit, so I
You
can
put
build
that
the
up
thing.
on the thing?
So yeah, next week I'll show a
Fuck
picture
yeah.
of the progress so far. I'm gonna start building on that. That'll be one of the things I do, to partake in other things
yeah.
other than politics.
gonna
But
buy-
I got 2 mangas I got to get through, and then it's like, I found another version or another copy of Animal Farm up there by George Orwell, and I'm gonna fire through that again.
That's
after
a
that.
good one.
That I always I have a better time reading that than I do listening to the audiobook.
Yeah.
I don't know why. 1984, on the other hand, I like to do the audiobook versus the book.
1984 is also very good.
The re-recording of it is fucking phenomenal. And it's terrifying. When you read it, you're like, oh my god, this is real life. What is this?
Double headers.
Double headers.
So, this week, full listener request show. Where do you want to start?
I think we should start with the chat. We should revisit the chat shop with the Raz Simone.
Okay.
Just because I think it's probably the quickest.
Okay. So this topic came into us via Instagram. And it is centered around an article done by KUOW that I'm pulling up on my
For those of you who are not Washington State or Northwestern Washington,
thank you.
KUOW is our NPR, our local NPR station, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It is our local NPR affiliate, if you will.
There you go.
Yes. So this article is covering allegations from 2 women. The headline is actually 2 women accuse Seattle hip hop artist Raz Simone of abused coercion. Right. So
And we touched on this earlier in the fake start of the show.
yes.
But we should say this again. We're not going to necessarily
Yes.
give much in the way of varying opinions on what is being put down.
We're
in
not
this
me
article.
tooing anybody, right?
And yeah, we're not going to me too nobody. And really, what this listener asked when she brought this to us was essentially not asking us to take a stance. It was just to kind of put this article out there, to kind of make sure people know it's out there, to spread it around and all this, because we are dealing with, again, a lot of accusations here.
Yes.
And if anything, getting those accusations spread out there, can be better than not.
And because and sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you.
I was-
And because of the nature of these allegations, we are not. We are
I'm not going to
hesitant.
accuse anybody of anything.
We're not going to accuse him, but we're not saying this never happened. You know what I'm saying? We're certainly not abdicating him of this because we don't know either way. There's paperwork, there's allegations, there
there's some
are
court filings,
written statements, there's court filings, there are things going on here that are beyond opinion.
Yeah.
And so
Which, again, I could go to a court today and tell them that they're blah, 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 and I can get a restraining order or a thing from you
yes.
if I wanted to. So that in itself doesn't add
But
weight one way or the other either.
But especially because there is court documentation, there is written testimony of witnesses. We feel that it is important that these things be brought to light.
Yeah.
That these stories are heard, and that the information is out there, so that people can be making informed decisions on who they want to contribute money to, on who they want to listen to, on who they want to be involved in. Because there started to be later in this story, we'll talk. Once the Chaz Chop thing happened, there were people in Chop that began to find out about the allegations that were cool with him kind of being the leader, and it ended up to him kind of stepping out of involvement in Chaz Chop. So that's one of. We'll get to it. But
let's put it this way, right? During the big Me Too movement push, right?
yes,
There was that slogan of I don't remember the exact slogan, but it was, believe all women, right?
Right.
It essentially boiled down to, in any logical anybody that thinks logically says, okay, listen to all of these things, right? And regardless of what the accusation is, you should listen to the accusation. And right here, that's exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to be going through, we're going to be listening to what this article is and these people's accusations. Raz Simone has some things to say in this article too, so we're listening to all sides, and we're just relaying information that is embedded in this article. I don't know, I just had that little slogan come to mind.
yes,
Not believe all women, but we're listening. We're not just blowing it off because, this is a very 3-hour interview with Raz Simone where they got all this information. There's a lot of detailed information here. There's a lot to take out of this article. And at the end of the day, we're not going to walk away knowing much more than we did when we came into it. There's just a lot to take in, if that makes sense.
yes.
Yeah. So anyways, where do we want to start with this?
We'll
From
just
the
start
beginning?
at the beginning. Yeah. Amanda Branch is one of the women that have raised allegations that have accused Raz Simone. These particular allegations are for abuse. She claims that Raz Simone forcibly cut her hair. Let's see, because this, like you said, this is a long article.
It's a very long article. There's a lot of allegations at the beginning about physical abuse, almost grooming in a way of like kidnapping cases we've heard of
Certainly.
making them do certain things, not allowing them, removing any independence that they have, and only allowing women to do exactly what he says, exactly what they, when he says to do it, or
Right.
doing this, only doing that, getting mad and abusive when they do otherwise.
So let's see. I'll quote from it real quick. Branch and Simone had been together for years and often stayed at Branch's Corner Street unit over an espresso shop and nail salon. Branch said she wasn't allowed to leave without telling him. If she did, there were consequences. Simone denies that. He had such a grip on her and said that she had asked him to cut her hair. Branch said Branch had been drinking with friends that day when Simone called her. The phone conversation got heated, she said, and she drunkenly called Simone a bitch. When Branch returned home, she said he pinned her down with his knees and used kitchen scissors to cut off her hair, waist-length hair. And so she says later in the article that she says, I did ask him to cut my hair after he cut it with these scissors. Because there are pictures in one of his music videos of her with a shaved head. And so he's claiming, oh, well, she asked me to shave her hair. Like, she asked me to. And she said, I asked him to shave my hair after he cut the fuck out of my hair. And it was uneven and looked like shit. I asked him to shave my head so that it was even. And so
Yeah, that was one of his album or
it's
song title,
right. And there's a lot of
thumbnail.
things like that.
Whatever you call those.
There's a lot of like overlap like that.
There's a lot.
And in any case where there's allegations, there's going to be a lot of that. Where one person, especially the person who is potentially guilty of the allegations, may not want to tell the entire story. That he's like, oh, well, she asked me to cut her hair after I fucking cut her hair with kitchen scissors. You know what I'm saying?
We're not going to bring up that first part.
Right, and I speak so adamantly about this altercation with the scissors because there's another altercation. I believe this is the same one in which she was thrown into. No, the different one about the nightstand, right? But there's another allegation where she was thrown into nightstands, and there is a witness testimony for this account.
For that one,
of which she was thrown into the nightstand. I believe that it, at that point, broke the window, and
1 floor above the barn.
yes.
Brick building on East
thank you.
Olive Way was an apartment where Branch lived. It was there that Simone had thrown
Thank
Branch
you.
into the nightstand hard enough to break the window above, she said. Branch tried to move on from their relationship, but seeing Raz Simone in the limelight during Chaz Chop brought it flooding back. And that, I think, should be also kind of stated as throughout this article. If we didn't actually perfectly state the title so you can actually read this article for yourself. It's 2 women accused Seattle hip-hop artist Raz Simone of abuse, coercion.
And it's from January 11th of 2021. So this is a new article. This was came out just a few days before it was sent to us.
Yep.
So we've not been sitting on it, but it came to us like the day before the last episode recording. So we didn't have enough time, obviously.
Especially because it's a lengthy article.
It's dense. Yeah.
There's a lot of, for lack of a better term, and I don't mean to diminish anything that's said throughout the article, but there's a lot of he said, she said in this article. They get a lot of the perspective from...
well, they talked to him for 3 hours, so
Yeah.
I would imagine that they have...
A lot of
They
perspective
have
from
3
both
hours.
sides.
Well, and to ask him specifically about everything that she said in the article. So there is, I think, naturally going to be he said, she said, because they're going to ask him specifically about what she said.
Yeah.
You know. What the fuck was I going to say?
Nightstand?
Oh. No, we talked about the nightstand. You were talking about the extensive, like, all evidence, for lack of a better term, right? And part of it is because you were talking about this being almost like a grooming thing, right? Both of these things happened over extended periods of time. And so when she says in this article, Branch says in this article that, you know, she thought she was going to be able to move on from it. And then later the Chaz thing happened and he's standing on top of his fucking Tesla. He's handing guns out to people in the street. He's on the news all the time. And it comes flooding back, right? This is a super common thing for people who have been victims of abuse, for them to try and move on from it, think that it's fine,
and get
something
dragged back in,
get dragged back into it,
and
so because there are many people whose immediate reaction to something like this is, why didn't you come out before, you know? And it's just not that simple, you know what I'm saying? We've talked about this before when we've talked about all of the different allegations that have happened, Me Too, the Kavanaugh thing, that were like, there's potential for this because they're, especially for abuse. It's not uncommon for people to potentially block it or just not want to talk about it for an extended period of time. You know,
a lot of people are they try to shove it way down or put it in the back seat and just carry on, and then something happens that triggers all that stuff coming back because it was never professionally dealt with.
And so I would implore everyone to refrain from making that your immediate reaction, if that's what you're thinking. There are many reasons that a delayed reaction or coming forward allegations could be, and so that is not...
Given what we've seen over the last few years about people coming out about, you know, old allegation stuff, this is actually not that old, and it's even tougher when it's even fresher and someone that you perceive as your abuser is on television acting as a warlord,
right?
That could not have been easy to do.
And it's right. And so
tough,
after he's out and the whole Chaz thing is happening, right, there is Jaden Grayson, an activist who spoke through the microphone here at Chaz, right, who's talking about let me just go ahead and read from the article, right? He was depicted as a leader of the Seattle protest by the New York Times, interviewed by CNN, and praised by Forbes magazine as a man out for racial justice. Right-wing commentators on Twitter called him a warlord. Seattle city leaders got in touch. But in the movement, women were alarmed. They were already frustrated with his attention-grabbing behavior, and now they were hearing whispers and reading social media posts about abuse. Several denounced him. And the attention-grabbing behavior they're talking about is he was standing on top of his Tesla and like screaming, singing, and shit like that over like a loudspeaker while people are driving him down the street. And said he's out in the news. He's telling people what they can and can't do. I mean,
There was some very audacious
You can
behavior.
go back to the Chaz Chop episodes. I'll link back to those. Let me write that.
Yeah, he is
down
definitely
real quick.
He is definitely a star of the Chaz Chop show, if there was a Chaz Chop show.
And we saw a video of him handing rifles out to people who he didn't know. I mean, like these things did happen.
Yeah.
And so this says several denounced him. Jaden Grayson, an activist, spoke through a microphone. "We are aware of his behavior, seen and unseen," Grayson said, later paraphrasing what she said to be a crowd. "Despite the fact that you are clearly evading any form of accountability by the state, and that's okay because we're working on dismantling the system too, but the streets know what you're up to." Two women stepped forward to tell their stories using their full names. Amanda Branch and Angelica Campbell told KUOW that Simone abused them. Branch said he coerced her into stripping out of state and turning over the money. Campbell said he pushed her into prostitution. And the story later talks about Campbell. I want to find her first name just so that we can...
Angelica
Campbell, yeah, thank you. And she moved... Yeah, I just fucking said it. What an idiot.
Moved to New York City.
She moved from Chicago. Moved from Chicago, where she was struggling there. Raz Simone said that he would take care of her if she moved out here. She ended up renting one of the properties that he owns. He owns 2 properties, a couple of cars, and shit like that. Yep. This is a reminder for me to go and tell everybody to go over to our personal social media. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter. Yes, that is a timer for us to remember because we keep fucking forgetting.
Because otherwise we won't do it.
I'm at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at Clubhouse and at alpaca_Don on Instagram. Colin is at Beardbird Offie on both of those things. It's going to be the same thing on Clubhouse. Yep. Find all this on saltofthestreets.com, Salt of the Streets on Instagram, Salt of the Streets on Facebook, all that, saltofthestreets.com. It's all there. YouTube, Salt of the Streets. Thank you.
Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends.
Yes.
Spread that
like,
shit around.
subscribe, share the videos.
Send us listener requests.
Yes.
Viewer requests.
Yes, because we will cover them. It may not be that episode. Might have to fit them in 1 or 2 later, but we will cover your topics. If there's something you don't understand, you don't know, you don't want to do the research on, let us know. We will do it for you. That is why we are here.
Pretty soon, I'm going to maybe ask you for some dollars for trying to do that. Because it's getting old. it's hard to fit in sometimes.
Out here.
We love doing it. We love doing that.
Angelica Campbell met Simone on the internet, I believe.
Yep.
Nope, met him at a concert in Chicago. He was out there for a concert because he headlined for Macklemore and Ryan Lewis. Like he is locally when...
Yeah, because this is 2016 he opened for Macklemore and Ryan Lewis, right?
When Nils was here, Nils recognized him, knew who he was from the community, stuff like that. So he is, especially if you're in the rap community, you know who Raz Simone is. If you're from the state, that's just...
and having properties and stuff in Seattle.
Yeah, he has properties. He rents his cars out through
some kind of car share service.
Yeah, something I don't remember what it was
Tesla,
called.
I know he shares.
Yeah, Turo, a car sharing platform.
Turo.
He opened for Macklemore and Ryan Lewis on their 2016 tour, and his videos have each viewed on YouTube hundreds of thousands of times. Okay, so Angelica Campbell met Raz Simone in Chicago for a concert. They continued to speak on the internet, and she moved out here because Raz Simone said, I can help take care of you. I can do all this stuff. It ends up, according to Angelica Campbell, that he, starts charging her for rent in one of these properties, which is it's a property, I don't know, that's neither here nor there, I have no idea. But then, when she's having trouble finding a job, she's having trouble making money, he starts telling her, well, you can strip, you can go into prostitution. According to Angelica Campbell, Raz Simone says he never told her to go into prostitution. There are text messages that KUOW has seen and verified of him telling her, a particular hotel that she can go to, but not necessarily telling her, go and prostitute yourself and come back and give me the money. Again, I'm not saying neither here nor there. I'm just trying to speak clearly about what happened and try and cover all the facts here.
When asked in the interview, when asked about that particular situation, he says, I do not do that. He said adamantly, I am very against that. Yes. When that was brought up with Angelica Campbell. Campbell's
account is supported by protection order petition, which, like we talked about earlier, is not necessarily evidence that happened, but it's
there.
you have to go out of your way to go and do something like that.
Yes.
So you like it either shows that something happened, or it's a lot of work to go through for
nothing.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm
like, you could do it for nothing, but man, you'd have to be really committed. And when you're talking about some form of an abuse like that, I really don't think someone would do that unless it really happened, right?
And there
I
doesn't
don't
seem
know.
to
But
be
that's just
evidence. No. I agree, because
Yeah.
there doesn't seem to be evidence of like mutual emotional abuse.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If they had carried out a relationship together in which they both fucking Johnny Depp and whatever her name is, right?
Yeah,
Where they
yeah.
both, she like took a shit in his bed and like all this weird stuff. If there was a history or evidence of a mutually abusive relationship, I might think that, well, maybe it's a thing that she's trying to do to get back at him. But there doesn't seem to be any evidence of abuse from Angelica Campbell towards Raz Simone.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why I tend to believe that tends to be evidence that something happened between
Somewhere.
the two of them that she obviously wasn't a fan of, right? Obviously negatively impacted her. So Campbell's account is supported by protection order petition. Branch is supported by her mother's account, hospital records, and a statement from a roommate who said she witnessed the abuse. And that's what I was talking about. Her roommate says that she saw Raz Simone throw her into the nightstand and break the mirror, and was like, it's horrific. I hesitate to go too deep into any of these things, too detailed. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to upset anybody, but it's also, I don't want to lessen anything that happened because it's fucking horrible, you know? So certainly if you want to know all of the details, you can go and read the story and you can know everything.
A lot of them are pretty.
But I
dark.
do want to be adamant that it is dark. You know what I'm saying? These are not like light, like, oh, he, called me a bitch a bunch of times and I really didn't like it. These are very dark, physically abusive. Like I said, cutting hair with kitchen shears.
And mentally, too. Like, some really, like, the accusations of some of the things that went down are rather dark and disturbing.
Right. So, let's see.
But not unbelievable. Like, I feel like I've heard abuse cases in the past that have similar kind of themes that run through there, and it's just sad that people can do this kind of stuff to each other at all.
And let's see, I'm just trying to find
With quotes.
Just like a warning, I think it would be a good idea to just put it out there, because I think that was part of the listening request. You
Like
don't have to do all of it,
Yeah.
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 A trigger warning. Got it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's. Yeah. All right.
Just
so then
knowing
let's,
that
so
the whole situation is very dark.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and read some of these paragraphs. I'm going to read a couple of these paragraphs, like Jordan said. We're going to detail a little bit of the abuse, just so that everyone can understand exactly what happened. Branch, now 29, said she was emotionally and physically abused by Simone for 4 years and coerced into giving Simone the money she earned from stripping. She traveled around the country to strip at clubs. She said Simone wouldn't let her return if she wasn't making good money, and she typically would in New York City. And this is a quote from her. Waking up and seeing him on the news for something that I feel so strongly about when this person abused me, that was my push, Branch said. That was my push, Branch said. This summer of her decision to speak out, she was sitting at the Hillside Bar on Capitol Hill. It was very painful for me to see my abuser in a place of power. It's absolutely disgusting to me. 1 floor above the bar in a brick building on the east side of Olive Way, this is what you read earlier, was an apartment where Branch lived. It was there that Simone had thrown Branch into a nightstand hard enough to break the window above, she said. Branch tried to move on from their relationship, but seeing Raz Simone in the limelight brought it flooding back. He led marches. In June, he stood atop his Tesla, delivered a speech to the crowd as someone slowly drove the car through Seattle streets. Simone held the microphone and sang Bill Withers' 1972 soulful Lean on Me. He also courted controversy. He pulled guns from the trunk of his Tesla and offered them to fellow protesters for protection. I'm going to speak against that because we saw the video. I don't know whether or not we played audio from it on here. We watched the video ourselves. He did not say these are to protect the people. It was like enforcement. It wasn't, go and fucking put down the law, but it was that is the loosest of terms to say it's for protection, because it was for defense of the CHOP, which was at that time an illegally established occupied protest in downtown Seattle. So
And he was giving away firearms to individuals who he had no idea if they were legally able to carry those firearms,
well, that's,
or if they were of age. and
Didn't
all that
ask
good
them if
stuff.
they were 21 years old. No proof of protection or no proof of
nothing.
identification. Just,
Open the trunk.
do you know how to use a gun?
Yes.
Handed to a kid who obviously didn't know how to use a gun because the people around him were then very uncomfortable by what happened.
That particular situation we definitely did talk about. I remember that.
Yeah,
100%.
and that's, I know we talked about it. I don't remember if we played the audio or not.
I don't think
we
so.
probably didn't play the audio, but we definitely talked about it. I think it was when Alex was here.
Yep.
I'm going to link to these things when I post the episode on Monday.
Man, your work list is getting long, buddy, and we're not even an hour into it.
No, that's all right. We're doing it.
A lot of links this time.
Simone wants to stand up for what's right, reads an effusive profile on Forbes magazine. He's appalled by the brutal and militaristic tactic used by the police as they abuse tear gas, flash bombs, Gestapo tactics, rubber bullets, and other measures with such impunity. It was hard for Amanda Branch to stomach, she said. Raz Simone had punched her and hit her, she said, with the back of his hand, leaving imprints from his rings in the shape of tiny square diamonds. He had grabbed her hair so often her scalp ached. Simone denied hitting Branch and said that she wanted him to hit her. She used to be like, hit me, and I wasn't about that, Simone said. He said the women who came forward have, quote-unquote, mental health issues. Simone forwarded text messages that Branch sent in 2016 and 2017 to show that Branch reached out after they broke up. Looking back, Branch said she was an easy target. When she met Simone, her father had died the month before and she was dancing in clubs. She was grieving, and when Simone asked for money she had inherited from her father because that would prove her trust into him, she said she didn't know how to say no. I was embarrassed, she said recently. Branch said one beating got so bad she wound up at Harborview Medical Center. She'd been in Las Vegas celebrating her friend's 21st birthday, and she said Simone wanted her to stay in Vegas to make money stripping. She decided to come home to Seattle anyway. She felt it would be rude not to use the ticket that her friend's family had bought for her. Brent said that when she got back, Simone was furious and beat her up, resulting in 2 broken ribs and a collapsed lung. Hospital records show that Harborview doctors requested a trauma panel and prepped her for surgery, which she said she ultimately didn't need. In a separate incident, a roommate says she was present. A roommate says she was present. The roommate said in an emailed statement that she witnessed Simone abusing Branch 4 months later in May 2014. That statement was also sent to the Seattle Office of Arts and Culture, which awarded Simone a grant but had not yet been paid out. The roommate wrote that Simone became violent after Branch refused to give him her cell phone. A male friend had texted her. He began bashing her head against the wall with a tight grip on her hair while screaming, "Who is this guy texting you?" Branch's roommate wrote. She asked not to be named. Simone threw Branch into a nightstand, breaking it and shattering the window above it. The roommate wrote. Simone shoved Branch's head out of the broken window and continued to scream, she said. The roommate tried to intervene, she wrote, but Simone threw her against a dresser. Simone kicked Branch in the stomach, back, and face so hard that Branch was momentarily knocked out, the roommate wrote. Crying hysterically at what I had just witnessed, I screamed at him and begged him to please stop, which thankfully he did and left. So
There's that dark.
yes.
There's that darkness.
And further down, it starts to talk about what's called trauma bonding, which is kind of what we were talking about earlier. That
Kind of like
we're talking about
Stockholm,
grooming, right?
almost,
Yeah, kind of like Stockholm Syndrome. And Raz Simone is adamant that it's not Stockholm, it's not fucking whatever, but there is mounds of psychological evidence that would indicate
back.
if Amanda Branch did have an abusive relationship with Raz Simone to these levels, that it could definitely lead to trauma bonding that would cause her to try and reach out later, especially if she's not fully over it, which obviously she's not, she says, right? And that's why she had to come forward with this allegation here, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's obviously, that's not like she's obviously not over it. I mean, like, you were physically and emotionally
Of course
abused by
you're not
somebody
over it.
severely. You're
Yeah.
obviously not over it, right?
Exactly.
So these things line up. You know, there are a lot of other allegations that the Brett Kavanaugh thing, you know, that even at the time I was sold on it, but we still were like, but this doesn't make sense. This doesn't line up. This doesn't. So on its face, right, without having spoken to Raz Simone, without having spoken to Amanda Branch, there are not holes in this story like we have seen in the past to when, 9 months later we're like, oh, so this was a lie.
Yeah.
Right?
There's none of that.
There are not things here like we saw in these other stories,
Yeah.
right? And so again, I'm
And that might be because it's so fresh, but it also might be because it's very fucking true.
right. And so again, I want to be adamant that we are not using that as evidence to say Raz Simone definitely did this. We're using it as evidence to plug up any holes someone could try and poke in this because we don't see them. they're not here, right? Which lends itself to more investigation, to further discussion, to further interviews, to more discussion here, to more people knowing about it, to further exposure, all of these things. The very reality of the fact that we aren't able to sit on this podcast and deconstruct these allegations like we have so many others in the past lends itself to its credibility.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, really what we're getting at. And
it's not a Christine Blasey Ford situation.
right.
It's really not. It doesn't seem to be.
Especially because
From this article.
Well, because everything we laid out, you know,
Yeah.
and then again, there's this activist here that we talked about, that seems like she kind of weeded Raz Simone out of the Chaz Chop because she found out these allegations and other people found out about it. There was enough shady shit going on in the Chaz that they're like, we don't want you here
And
to be
peripherally,
representing. And
we
Janie
remember
Grayson,
that. We remember him being pushed out of the Chaz Chop for one reason or another.
But we didn't know why.
Yes.
Because so much was internal.
Exactly.
You know? And it goes on to talk about this is kind
the Chaz Chop was so not transparent.
Yes. Yeah. And it goes on to talk about Jan Grayson, the activist, says that when these allegations, Jade Grayson, excuse me, that she says that this person is, because I don't know, said she was listening. Okay, so it's a woman. Jaden is just an ambiguous name. I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
and
we use she because that's what the article
right.
uses.
And so Jaden Grayson says that when these two women came forward, they're white identifying women. This is the shit that pissed me off. Right? I get if you live in the Chaz Job, this is how this is going to be, but this is fucking disgusting and a horrible, horrible part of this radical leftism that we're fucking seeing here, right? These women, because they are not, I'm going to put this in my own word, because they aren't as black as Raz Simone, they couldn't come forward and allege these things against him because he's a black man who is trying to change things positively for the black community. So these women didn't even feel that they could come forward with their allegations because they're white identifying women. And that's what this activist says. She says that she had to advocate for them in Chaz Chop because they couldn't come forward because Raz Simone is a black male. Fucking disgusting.
That's the dangers of intersectionality.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
Because those are the type of things that can just go. If you buying into intersectionality, right, that hard to the point that you don't think you can bring allegations of abuse, mental and sexual, up, to the forefront because you're worried of the backlash because he's out there doing more things that give him more intersectional Olympic points than the abuse that you have gone through. There's a problem with your fucking ideology, and I suggest you fucking let that marinate.
Unless you let that marinate. Oh my god.
Sorry, I had to. It's so dark. We got to try to bring some comedy to it.
Well, that's a Letterkenny reference.
It is. It's a letter. Yeah. I suggest you let that one marinate. But
that's good. That was well timed. That was well
placed.
Let that
marinate because that is a serious fucking problem. If you need to find an activist to reach out for you on behalf of physical and mental sexual abuse, there's a serious fucking problem with your ideology.
Not even just that. If you have to find an advocate to reach out and advocate for you
anything.
because of
your own ideology, beliefs.
No. Because of, as a result of your ideology, you're fucking goddamn it. What was I gonna say?
We're putting way too much emphasis on this. We are. I'm just saying that right now. It's not about that. It's about the accusations themselves.
Word.
Right. We're getting derailed here. My bad.
I appreciate it.
But anyway.
Let it marinate.
Let it marinate.
Yes. So, I think that is about all there is to us covering this particular article.
It's a really tough situation, man.
We are not
There's not
intentionally leaving anything out. Obviously, I read a fair portion of this article.
Let me ask you this question.
Yes.
Have you come across any other articles about this type of thing? About this particular case with Raz Simone and abuse in the Chaz Shop?
I have not done extensive research
Okay.
So,
well, I've done some cursory research. I haven't dived head first, you know what I mean?
Is this the only one that you found?
It's the only one I found.
Yeah.
That alone, I think, speaks volumes because we're talking about allegations here that have X amount of evidence behind them.
Yes.
Right. And they're talking about some very tragic and dark things
Yes.
that are not it's very sad to say that these things are not necessarily something that is totally surprising to certain people because of the fact that this kind of shit happens a lot every single day in America, especially within cities and shit like that. Wherever there's a lot of economic disparity, especially within cities and even in rural communities and stuff. This kind of shit happens all the time. And I hate the fact that this story is only covered in one article from the local NPR station.
Yeah.
Because
yeah, no, go ahead.
With more platforms looking into this kind of thing, like you might be able to flush out some more details in this particular situation, but you'd also probably find a number of situations like this just within the Chaz Chop themselves that don't involve Raz Simone, that involve other people.
Well, especially
because this kind of stuff is so rampant, and then it pops up, and then it just kind of fades away.
Especially because Angelica Campbell came from Chicago. You know what I'm saying? She came all the way from Chicago. So if she moved here from Chicago, there's potential, and he went on tour with fucking Macklemore and Ryan Lewis. You know what I'm saying? So there's potential for...
There was a thing on here. I'm trying to remember what it was, but he dodged a court summons related to certain things that went down in the Chaz Chop. And I'm trying to find...
It was they're trying to serve him to take his firearms.
Yes.
And they haven't been able to track him down.
Yes.
Where the fuck are you, Raz Simone?
Well,
there's sus enough of you that they're trying to take your firearms. I mean, you live in Seattle, so that's...
You live in Seattle,
You could have spit in the wrong block, but...
Well,
I'm just kidding. I'm not trying to
what
lessen anything
he
here.
did
just being Seattle's crazy.
on video, right? Given what we all saw take place, especially with the fact that he was handing out firearms to people
ARs
to go use.
ARs,
right?
know what I'm saying?
I mean, I don't want to say that adds a whole nother level of like, oh my God, assault rifles on the streets.
I just mean it's not like he's handing out Glocks. Like he's like, here's this fucking...
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
I guess I've argued it doesn't make much of a difference. So
at the end of the day, he's doing that, right? And like that right there...
It's scarier.
Because they're scary. They are scarier. They're super scary.
Scary.
That right there is due to the laws that we have in this state does necessarily like that is cause for red flag, dude.
Can't
like
be doing
as
that.
2A as I am, as 2A as you are, you can't be doing that shit.
Can't be doing that.
Sorry, buddy. You might have lost your fucking privileges.
I
there
would get
for a
in
minute.
trouble if I let somebody borrow my gun and the cops found out about it.
Indeed.
That's not to say that like, I might not do that, but I mean like even if like I let you borrow my Glock to take hunting or something, you know what I'm saying? And for some reason you got pulled over or whatever, and the cop was like, I'm gonna run all the serial numbers on all of the guns that's in this car
because
somebody be getting in trouble.
Somebody be getting in trouble
just because you had it.
Two people be getting in trouble.
Exactly.
That's how that works.
The both of us.
But we don't need to go deep into
my
that
point is that it's a legitimate crime at the point in time.
Exactly.
That's my point.
And now he's dodging court summons, which is never a good situation. But then again, he seems to be kind of a dude that travels a lot and he's not really sedentary. He doesn't hang out in one spot very long.
Chaz Chop, I think I talked about this at the time. Mm-hmm. Supposedly, some people who work for Louder with Crowder rented one of his places that he puts up on Airbnb, like one of his condos, and stayed there while they were there covering the Chaz Chop.
Coming together, it would not surprise.
And I don't know whether or not it really was his place, you know what I'm saying? But they said that it was. So,
man, that would be...
Who knows? Crowder comes back February 1st.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, he's got some heart issues.
He's, and knee issues. Just see his fucking, like 3 syringes of blood. I really just wanted to see how he was going to take it, how he was going to take the loss, once it was like stamped. I'm like, what do you have to say? Not because I'm like, oh, I'm waiting for Steven Crowder, but because I'm like, what the fuck are you going to say? Like, you were so hard on like, there's no way, like, this is unlegitimate, like, it's not going to whatever. Well, now that it's all said and done, where are we at with it? Like, what's going to, I'm interested.
And that's a whole other thing, man, because, we could talk about that for a minute. Because there's a lot of people that I feel like might need to... I feel like there's a lot of people out there that push for a lot of different things when it came to like election stuff that probably need to... I don't know. They need to
Check
come
your
correct.
privilege.
Yeah, they need to check where they were at and where
Yeah.
they're at now, and go, oh wait, yeah, I forgot none of this works like that.
Yeah.
My bad. I got a little upset there.
People's funny.
But anyways, I gotta fucking run again, dude.
Get out of here.
Too much.
I want to take this opportunity to remind everybody to go ahead and
This is going.
like, subscribe, and share this video if you're watching it. And if you're listening to this, go ahead and leave us a rating and a review. 5 stars, obviously. If you're loving it, tell people what you like about it. The ratings and reviews really help people find us on the app stores and on the podcast apps. And obviously the sharing and liking of the videos helps us. What was I going to say? Oh, if you leave a rating and a review and you send us a screenshot of it, this says this in the description of all of our episodes. We don't talk about it nearly enough. If you send me a screenshot of your rating and your review, I will send you a t-shirt. I'll do it. It says that in the description of the episode, so I'll do it. You can find this on our YouTube at Salt of the Streets, our Instagram at Salt of the Streets, our Facebook at Salt of the Streets, even though fuck Facebook. We have our personal social media. I'm at Salt of the Street on Instagram. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter, and Alpaca _Don on Instagram. Colin
Yeah,
is at
you
Bigfoot on
you
both
try
those
to
things.
be Salt of the Street on Instagram, but we
That's
covered that earlier.
We're out here.
So that was about the most uncomfortable I've been trying to cover a topic. I'm not gonna lie. The balance between trying to relay the information, but not be accusatory,
Yeah.
but also it's a fine line to walk, and so.
But also not like,
I don't know. Yeah,
because you don't want to defend him too much because like we don't know that he's innocent. You know
No.
what I'm saying?
but we don't
Like,
know that he's not
You're
innocent.
innocent until you're proven guilty, but
Yeah.
this makes me super fucking sus of you.
Yep.
And I want to be honest of that, but I also want to be objective in the fact that you are innocent until you're proven guilty.
Yep.
But what I've seen thus far
Because I'm not gonna be a fucking hypocrite.
doesn't look very good.
No, exactly. It don't look good, but I'm not going to be a hypocrite. Just like, because when this was happening, when accusations were coming about,
Steve Blasey Ford got me once.
right?
You know what I'm saying? She got me.
She got you.
And I was convinced, and I was like, fuck Brett Kavanaugh. We can't do it.
Were you?
Which I wasn't that bad, but I was like,
Yeah.
I was at the time.
I
and
feel
could
like
go
you were
back
a
and
little
I'll own
bit
it.
more on that side than I was.
I
probably.
definitely was because
A little
I
bit.
didn't at the time. I didn't understand. I was like, why would she come forward and say this if
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't true? Like, why would somebody go through all the effort and blah blah blah?
And we
And
still don't know.
Unfortunately,
We still don't know.
unfortunately, some people will go through the effort to do that thing. I don't think that's the case in this particular topic that
Yep.
we just covered here, and that's why I was drawing such contrast between
Yes.
this
Yeah.
and Kavanaugh and Christina Blasey Ford because. At that time, like I said, I was pretty fucking sold when I was like, we don't know enough to discount it, and we have to believe her, and if we don't know, then we don't know, we can't put them on there. And then, like, 9 months later, her witnesses were like, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
So,
And that's
fuck me, right? But again,
Yeah,
that doesn't,
that's-
we have testimony here, we have, from multiple people, we have court records, hospital records, we have things here. So,
But this is what we got, and that's where we're going to leave it, because this is basically what we were asked to do, was to bring it up,
sus but not guilty.
to bring it out there, to flush it out. It's out in the public. Go check it out. KUOW. 2 women accuse Seattle hip hop artist Raz Simone of abuse, coercion. So read the article for yourself. Find out what's going on. Just let it permeate in your brain, and
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Reach out to us. Let us know what you think of this article. Let us know if you think that we did a decent job covering it.
And
or
we
if
will
there
throw
are-
that in the notes.
Yeah,
we'll link to the article.
I
in the
will
show
link
notes.
to the article in the show notes. Give me one more
There
thing.
we go. We'll make it easy.
What do you want to do
for
next?
them? We'll make it easy for them. Hard
Yeah,
for you.
yeah, exactly. What are we going to do next? State reopening? Or do you want to talk about the death penalty next?
I want to get really angry, so let's talk about the state reopening.
Okay.
Let's do it. I want to get animated. I want to get on some rants.
Okay. So I think I have
I
this.
got a printout. I got a chart.
Cool.
It's not really a chart, but we're going to be referring to some new things
Perfect.
as far as Washington State is concerned.
I have this article here.
We used to be on a kind of county by county basis for who
Yes.
can reopen and whatnot, but now the powers of be decided that that is not the case, and so we're going to be talking about the regions here. These are the regions and the phase numbers.
The districts.
The districts. I'm
Yeah.
kind of done with it. I'm kind of done with this shit. Kind of fucking done with this shit.
What does she say? I volunteer as tribute.
I volunteer to go murk a bunch of people.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what tribute
So I
means.
have this article here. It is from January 5th, 2021.
Jan 5th.
January 5th.
Oh, yeah, that was the early one, right?
Yes. Inslee announces plan to reopen Washington State restaurants, other businesses based on COVID-19 hospitalization rates in regions.
Yeah, this is how I got to go back to the bar.
Yes.
That was the thing.
So let's see here.
Turns out all we had to do was open the fucking doors.
Broke the state into 8 regions that are largely tied together by healthcare systems. So this topic was brought to us by Paul, my barber. Shout out Paul. Shout out
Yeah,
Swell Blended on
which-
Instagram. If you're
Swole
local,
Blended, bro.
hit him up, bro.
Can you do something with that?
Go
What's
to
up?
his Instagram, make an appointment. The link is on his Instagram.
Is he in Silver Dial?
He's on. No, he's like in Bremerton on Fairgrounds.
That's a
Handy
long.
Andy's.
Oh, word. That's
Yeah.
basically Silverdale.
Exactly.
Right by Handy Andy's? Word.
In that same complex. Handy Andy's.
I know exactly where that is.
Pizza place.
It's a good spot.
Nail salon.
Is the pizza
hair
place
salon.
money?
It's Fairgrounds Pizza. It's delicious.
Word.
Yeah.
Because I could go get a slice and a slice.
You can get. They got a 24 cut pizza. It's an enormous square.
The square one?
box. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know what we call that in the cooking world? A lazy man's pizza.
There you go.
'Cause
Oh,
you
but
don't
it's
have
way
to shape
bigger.
it. You just throw the dough in a
It's
fucking
enormous.
sheet pan, spread it out, done.
It's enormous.
I love those things. We used to get those from the R.I.P. Bella Luna in Squamish. Do you remember? You guys ever?
Oh, no. I thought you were talking about the Mexican place.
No, that is
Casa Luna.
Casa Luna.
Yeah.
Yeah. House of the Moon versus Bella Luna. It's
Beautiful Moon?
probably House of the Moon in Italian. I don't know, but yeah, it used to be
Who
right
knows?
down on the point in Squamish. It was money.
Yeah.
But
So
anyways.
Paul asked me about this last time that I got my haircut, and he,
So what exactly did he ask you about?
he asked,
Like what?
"What do you
what's
know about
happening?
the reopening?" And then he said, "Yeah, because I heard that we're broken into like districts or something, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
know how they were broken up." So he was curious as to what the metrics were for reopening, and also how these districts were decided.
We have
right?
metrics. I don't know how. I don't know if I can go
it
into.
says here, right, the districts are connected mostly by healthcare systems, which would lead me to believe, right, my understanding of this is that, like, if people are in Kitsap County need to be transferred somewhere, or in Mason County need to be transferred somewhere, they're going to go to Kitsap County. The
Yeah,
hospital
because
systems
we have
are
hospitals.
connected, and so that's
yeah.
that's what I'm
So
understanding.
if you're
of
fucked
this.
up all the way up at
in Clallam,
up in
and you
Clallam
need
County,
you need a big hospital.
you're getting
Kitsap,
airlifted to Silverdale probably
exactly,
now.
Harrison, and then if you have to go somewhere from there, it's Harborview.
And Harrison started transferring their people to the new Silverdale clinic or the hospital recently.
Exactly.
That's
so,
the thing.
So that's what
That
my
makes sense.
understanding of how this goes. Because
When
one
you look
of
at the metrics, that does make sense
they're
because
related
it's
to
focused on
hospitals.
hospitals.
Exactly. So that is my understanding. Before
I
moving
don't know
into
why I didn't
phase
think
two,
about that beforehand. It makes so much fucking sense now.
before moving into phase 2, each region will need to meet 4 metrics, which include a 10% decreasing trend in case rates during the previous 2-week period.
The roadmap to recovery right
A
here.
10% decreasing trend in case rates during the previous 2-week period, which means that this 2 weeks needs to be 10% less cases than the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
Is what that means in layman terms. They write these things in the most fucked up ways. I hate it.
Yeah. We have trend in case rate,
A
which is one category.
A 10% decrease in COVID-19 hospital admission rates during the previous 14-day period, which
Check.
means that you obviously have less people hospitalized for COVID-19 over the last 14 days. An ICU occupancy rate less than 90%,
Check.
which obviously means you want...
Which
fucking-
corresponds to the hospital admissions
Yes,
rate,
yes.
and then those people that become severe cases.
'cause people
Check.
are going to start in the ICU and then get admitted to the hospital and be in the proper hospital for a while. And the last one is a test positivity rate of less than 10%. So of all
Yep.
of the tests that are being done in this district, you want to have less than 10% of them be positive.
So essentially, we have 4 dials, which
The last time we
Doesn't
had
really
like 10
matter.
or 12,
yeah,
right? It was a
exactly.
fuckload of
We had a
dials.
ton of them, but now we have 4 categories.
Hella dials.
And you only need to meet 3 of 4 for 2 weeks to move into the next phase. As of right now, the district in
Yes.
which we occupy,
You like that?
I know it's kind of, and next week,
All of the regions will begin in phase 1 on Monday, and so
yeah,
that was like 2 weeks ago.
that was 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And now, of course, we've seen the most populous counties in populous regions,
Yeah.
because or districts, whatever you want to call them now,
7
because fuck
counties,
counties.
2 districts that are clear to move to phase 2, and
Yeah.
that was just announced earlier this week. So
Yeah.
that's the
Which
Puget
is-
Sound
And the
region.
West.
We're calling them districts.
Yeah,
They're
districts.
Fuck this. We're calling
It
them
says
districts.
by region on the paper.
Fuck that.
By region, but we're going to call them districts.
Let me see that piece of paper.
Okay. So, but you're gonna take away my counties. You're gonna right there. We go. We need a Sharpie, something big and fat that you can.
I got one of those.
Boom. Cross. We're making this districts. Son.
Wouldn't it be funny if I spelled it wrong?
You'd
District.
still be one step ahead of the rest of the county, or the state. So
there you
anyways,
go.
so yeah, this week,
It's like
last
Wednesday,
week,
I think, maybe
yeah,
Thursday.
there were 7 counties, within 2 districts that got to move to phase 2, and that included Snohomish, King, Pierce, Thurston, Lewis, Pacific, and Grays Harbor counties.
Yes.
This would be the West District and the Puget Sound District. Currently, as of Friday, because I have a feeling that, these people don't work weekends, just like we don't work weekends. The last update was on the 28th of January. Northwestern region is plus 20% in the trend in case rates, which is no bueno.
Not good.
So we're 30% off of where we want to be. Our trend in hospitalizations is plus 16%, which again, not so great. The one nice thing we have is the percentage of ICU capacity, which I also
71%,
which at 71%, and we need to be below 90, which I am also kind of wondering if that has to do with the new hospital opening up, because Bremerton, Harrison has been transporting some of their patients from Harrison to Seattle or Silverdale. So that might be part of that. And then our percent positivity rate, which I am assuming is positivity rate from tests being done during that 2-week period, is at 9%, which is just below the 10% threshold.
Just below.
So right now we're 2 out of 4. We need 1 more to go, but we are very far away from that.
Yeah,
in those
we've
2 other
also
categories.
seen, now there's like the UK variant that has started to show up in the state, and so that's
3 other
be
variants, right? 3
something
UK.
like that.
There was a South African variant and then the Brazilian variant.
Yeah. Another contrast.
I wonder if I got regular COVID or if I got European COVID.
That's
I would like to
I
know
asked
that.
you last night, right?
Because I didn't get told.
The UK strain is supposed to be like more, it's easier to catch and it's more intense, right? And so I asked you last night, like, are you safe from the UK version because you had the other COVID, or could you potentially? I just did that 11 minutes
we got
ago,
it.
So I'm not going to worry about it. The next contrast between this and the original shutdowns is there is no application process for the 8 regions. In the original shutdowns, you had each county, because it was county by county, had to apply to move to the next phase, and so. Instead, the State Department of Health will be examining the data every Friday to determine if a region can move forward on the following Monday. So it looks... They don't work on weekends. They do it on Friday. To decide what you can do on Monday.
And walk out, baby.
Lazy fuckers.
I thought there was a pandemic going on. Shouldn't you
in-
people be working
Yeah.
24 hours a day like the Fauci is?
Once in phase
You know Fauci's
2,
working 24/7.
Seems to be on Skype an awful lot.
Yeah, he does.
Once in phase
Highest
2,
paid
the
public
regions-
employee in the United States.
Did you know that? Yeah, he literally makes more money than the president.
Like
He
almost
makes
twice
more
as
money.
much.
He is the highest paid public employee in the United States, Dr. Fauci.
I don't know what the percentage is here, but he probably makes 40% more than the president does.
He makes a lot.
At least.
Won't be paying off his student loan debt.
We're not going to be paying off his student loan debt. Hard no.
Once in phase 2, the region can stay there as long as it meets at least 3 of the 4 metrics used to determine it moving from phase 1. And let's see here. Indoor gatherings with people outside your household are prohibited unless participants have quarantined for at least a week and tested negative for the virus. Funerals and weddings are limited at 30 people, and receptions following the ceremonies are not allowed. Long-term care facilities can accept visitors only outdoors, with limited exceptions for end-of-life care and essential support personnel. The restrictions do not apply to daycare centers, schools, and construction and manufacturing businesses. Grocery and retail stores are capped at 25%. Personal services such as barbershops and salons are limited to 25% capacity. Real estate open houses are prohibited. Youth and adult sports are limited to outdoor-only team practices, and athletes must wear masks. College and professional sports are allowed to continue. Inslee previously cited the rigorous protocols they have put in place for allowing them to continue. And now, Colin announced, we talked about it, I believe. Oh, I think we talked about it before the show, actually. The federal government has now announced a federal mask mandate at any, transportation hubs.
It was while on conveyance and at transportation hubs. And I love this term, on conveyance, right?
Yeah.
Which essentially means
You're
that if you're in any form of transportation device other than your own personal vehicle, if you're on there with other folks that you don't know, the conveyance applies.
I'm pretty sure that this is unconstitutional.
I mean,
Like, I'm not a constitutional
and I didn't
lawyer
know
or
the
anything,
CDC
but
had
I'm
the power
pretty
to
certain.
dictate law.
Yeah.
I did not know that the CDC can say, yep, this, if you are found in violation of this, where was the fucking term, the actual language they used during it? It said, instructing, okay, so this is, operators of transportation hubs must use best efforts to ensure that any person entering or on the premises of the transportation hubs wears a mask. Best efforts include, and here's just one point, instructing persons that federal law requires wearing a mask in the transportation hub, and failure to comply constitutes a violation of federal law. Now, I can't even begin to understand how this all works here. So this came out, there's no date on it, of course, but it came out very recently, and it takes effect, and it was 1 minute before midnight on February 1st, which is Monday. So I guess for all intents and purposes, that's Tuesday, February 2nd. But realistically, it's midnight of February 1st. I mean, this is a federal mandate from the CDC, who now is apparently allowed to make law, which I didn't know the CDC was a part of the legislature, which makes legislation. But it came out. I just saw it this morning while Don was on the way over here. And now we actually have another extension of the federal mask mandate, which if we all recall, I don't remember if we talked about it during the last show, possibly during the doubleheader from last week. But as Biden came into the White House, one of the executive orders was that he would require a mask mandate on any federal ground, so any kind of federal property, which is perfectly within his constitutional rights to do because the federal government owns that land, right? So that's the thing. But now we have the CDC saying that any form of conveyance or transportation hub must also meet these you must be within this law, which again, I still don't understand how the CDC has the power to make law, but I guess we'll just kind of go with it. So this applies to any conveyance. So I'm going to read to you their definition of conveyance. Quote, conveyance shall have the same definition as under 42 CFR 70.1, meaning, quote, an aircraft, train, road vessel, or other means of transport, including military, end quote. Included in the definition of quote-unquote conveyance is the term quote-unquote carrier, which under 42 CFR 71.1 has the same definition as conveyance under the same.
So if you're on a boat or a ship, you also have to wear a mask.
As long as you're conveying. Yeah.
If you're going somewhere.
If you're conveying. If
Which
they are going to
most of the
convey
time.
you somewhere. Yes. Ferries. Check.
But I mean, like, it says military. So I mean,
Yes.
like boat or
Military
ship, like
transport.
a submarine or a carrier, or like if you're on these things, then you have to be wearing a mask.
Yeah, which wouldn't
I
surprise
wonder if
me
you
at
were
this
on a
point.
submarine, you were wearing a mask anyway, because you're on a submarine.
Probably.
Just because you're indoors.
Well, it's either that or they got to quarantine 2 weeks beforehand before everybody gets on the sub.
Oh, definitely.
And then they test everybody before they go under, and then within a couple days they know if everyone's clear or not, and then no masks. Although you could probably catch COVID underneath the water these days, depending on who you ask.
Well, remember when this whole thing first popped off? There was that outbreak on the carrier.
Yep.
And it was like a whole big deal. And
Oh, it's a huge deal.
Insurrection. No, I mean like internally on the boat, like insurrection, and you
Well,
guys aren't going anywhere.
Yeah,
and, like, we
because
have
the
to let them go.
captain, the captain of the ship decided to pull the ship into port and take it out of duty, and then at the same time broadcast to the entire world that they were taking a carrier out of commission.
Yes.
Which was a serious fucking problem.
Like an idiot. Right. Okay.
But
I remember that.
But anyways, I'm really confused here. So to get back to the
Yes.
reopening, right?
The roadmap to recovery.
Why do we only have 2 phases? None of which go more than 25% capacity.
4 was too many.
Like worship services. Phase 1, indoor maximum 25% capacity. Phase 2, indoor maximum capacity 25%. What's the fucking difference here? What is the difference? The only difference, there's not a whole lot of difference here other than like the amount of people that can be in certain outdoor gatherings. Groups of 15, limited 2 household per term. Social and at-home gathering size. Indoor. Phase 1. Prohibited. We're not allowed to hang out together.
No.
But that's okay because we're brothers, so we're part of the same household.
Though this also says once in phase 2, the region can stay there as long as it meets at least 3 of the 4 metrics used to determine moving from phase 1. So
otherwise, you slide back.
Well, and it also leads me to believe that once we have a majority of the state in phase 2, then they would be like, here's phase 3 and 4.
I love that you have that much optimism.
No, I don't mean. I mean, that's not optimism to me. That's pessimism because that means that this isn't the end. Phase 2 is not the end. This is just a continued step of
then you
can have these privileges back.
We're just not even worried about a phase 3 yet.
We're just
not even going to get there.
They're like, we're not even going to tell you what we're going to let you do when we get to phase 3.
I just can't.
Just don't even worry about it.
I can't.
Worry about what we're letting you do right now.
Just wear 2 masks. Okay,
just
Fauci?
triple mask. 90%
mask.
effectiveness if you wear a triple mask. That's
only. All right, so I love this, right? Because there was that doctor that came out against Fauci's double mask comment that he made the other day, which I will say this. He was just speaking kind of off the cuff, whatever. It was a thing. He was talking about filtration media, and if you wear more than one, obviously there's double filtration. Got it. But when you're talking about masks, right? None of them are sealed to your face, right? There's air going to be escaping from there. So if you wear one mask, the rate at which the air is filtered through the mask and out prevents a lot of that your breath from escaping through the large gaping holes in your mask, right? If you wear 2 masks, they're not designed to be blown through at the same level. So a certain pressure is going to push excess air out of the gaping fucking holes in the mask. That is the deal, right? I understand. You get it? We got it? We're all there? Basic physics? Cool. Having double filtration media when you're talking about in a lab setting, right? You're forcing X amount of air through those 2 pieces of filter media. You will have cleaner air on the other side.
Yeah.
But if the pressure to escape the test tube is less, you have less required pressure to escape the test tube than go through the filter meter, guess where the fucking air is going to go? Out the goddamn side.
I didn't think about that.
So, neither did Fauci Dog. Okay? That's all I'm saying. So you obviously deserve $400,000 a year plus over at the state.
I'm about it.
I just fucking, for God's sakes, man, I cannot believe how much of our own common sense has been robbed from us. And we've just been hold the hand of Big Daddy government and not allowed to think for ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm fucking done with it, man. I am done with it. We can go through this thing if we're smart about it, where we don't need Big Daddy to tell us what to do, to pass laws, to keep us in line. If we all were just fucking smart about it, for God's sake. I got the Rona. I understood what it's like. I ain't trying to give it to somebody. You know, the minute I thought I was exposed, I was here. I was stuck in my house for like a fucking month trying to figure this shit out. Okay? Got it. Figured it out. Done. I was responsible. Be responsible, and you don't have to. I would say in a good world, if we were all trying to be responsible and all trying to look out for each other and do the right thing, we wouldn't have Big Daddy government telling us we have to do X and have to do Y.
Well, especially because the vast majority of, to my understanding, and I'm more than happy to receive any information that proves me wrong, my understanding is the vast majority of people getting sick is not like in restaurants or shit like that. It's
hard
like
no.
It's people being at their house, people being at other people's houses, or like workplaces potentially. Like it's not
a closed environment with very little airflow.
Like, people doing recreational shit doesn't seem to be what's getting everyone sick.
No.
You know what I'm saying? It's going over to somebody's house when you shouldn't have, or like going to a big ass barbecue or something like that. Or something. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't seem to be that like, oh, we had a bunch of people in this restaurant and they all got fucking sick afterwards.
No.
Like it's like the same thing with the schools.
Yep.
You know, I saw this morning on CNN
The
that
schools, bro. That's a whole thing.
they had a doctor on there, some type of kids doctor. They're saying that
Pediatrician.
there's but some type of specialized.
Yeah.
I know what the word pediatrician is, motherfucker.
I know. I had to try to pull
Yeah,
that
we
one
have
out
a
of
kid.
a hat.
No, but some type of specialized pediatrician, and there was a study done that school-age children are 10 times more likely to die from suicide right now than they are from COVID-19. And we're still in the open of the schools.
Well, yeah.
We haven't had one outbreak, or I don't even think a case of a teacher getting it from a student and then getting seriously sick. And we're pushing kids to try and get back into school, but the teachers are the ones that are like, no, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to do it, And it's...
I've seen...
I told John, I don't understand how you can argue that you're doing it for the children when children are dying at their own hand at 10 times the rate that they were last year.
Well.
And you're still bitching about something that doesn't exist. And I don't mean coronavirus. I mean the high potential that you're going to get sick and die because when these kids is walking around with coronavirus. Like we haven't seen enough evidence for that for it to be a huge concern for me. So I don't understand why this is happening,
Because...
from people who claim to be there for the children.
Yeah. Public sector unions, bro. I don't want to get too deep into the accusatoriness,
insanity.
but like looking at a couple of the largest
Spending millions of dollars in
teachers'
California
unions.
to rename schools, and the kids aren't even in the fucking schools.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? Like it's shit like that. Like that doesn't make any sense.
interesting. How does that fucking work? You should try this seltzer real quick. Yeah, I've seen school buses lately. Have you seen school buses? I've
very
seen school
limited.
buses. Yes.
Yes, here.
This is the original seltzer flavor,
That's
bro.
pretty
okay?
good.
This is Polar. When I was in the Northeast, this
Super
was
lemony.
this is the brand, bro,
Yeah.
and it's fucking great compared to bubbly, compared to what do we call it? Liqueur out here.
Here
They
we
can all
have
fucking duck.
in
Polar's
our
where it's
state
at.
we have like what is it? Kindergarten, first, and second
Going
that
back.
are in school right now. I think.
So at least they're
Um,
talking about like the
so-
younger age kids
but-
not being transmission vectors, right?
But what I'm saying is that at what point, at what age, do you suddenly in elementary school become way more infectious than you were the year before?
We don't know
Because
because
that's
no one's
not-
gone to
My
school.
understanding hasn't even been. It's been like high school kids. Like once you get to high school, then you have to start worrying about like getting super sick and carrying it and shit like that. But children,
But
I
you
don't
better believe
understand where this is coming from.
Well, every single case of a child that gets sick, there has been one recently. There was like a 14-year-old girl, cute little kid that got corona, and she's been in the hospital, like on a breather, and she got it real bad. No known, comorbidities or anything like that right now, but she got one of the variant strains and got laid up in the hospital. And then that single story is blasted out on high for everyone
They
to
all
read,
gonna
and
die.
everybody gets scared. But at the same time, you have a problem with the lack of data because the kids aren't going to school. Right? Kids aren't going to school.
So we
en
don't even
masse.
know.
So we don't even know if they're going to get it at school.
Yeah.
Right? We know that due to the statistics, they're not getting it at home, which is one
Right.
thing. I mean, that is probably a good base metric to go off of, and nothing in that data, as we have now, says you cannot go back to school.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. There's too many factors at play here that have weight that are outside of the actual
But it's definitely
pandemic
not political.
conversation. It's definitely not political.
Definitely not political at
No.
all.
It's the same fucking problem we have with all public sector unions and all specifically in the teachers unions. Which is a problem because there's a lot of good teachers out there, right? There's a lot of good
Yeah.
people that want to do the right thing and do all that, but there's particularly at the end of the spectrum that the individuals that run the unions that make the calls. Because if you think a union these days is a purely democratic form of making sure the workers get what they need and everybody gets a say, and that is total and utter bullshit. You're joking yourself. You're kidding yourself. That's as crazy as saying every politician in D.C. has your best interest in mind.
I think that unions are the largest political contributors in the country, right?
Hard yes.
So
Hard yes.
pretty interesting. I think in regards to the reopening.
Yes.
Because we were talking about only 2 phases.
Yep.
I've read a lot. Jansley's talking a lot about shots, the amount of vaccines.
So many vaccines.
So I think, and this is total speculation, I think that they're going to tie vaccine percentages into phase 3.
I don't know what would make you think that.
Well, and
other than their track record.
Well, I just have down here like that they're doing 24,000 a day now. He's saying they want 45,000 a day.
Yeah.
And they're getting more shots now from the Fed. The federal government just purchased like 200 million more doses from Moderna and Pfizer. I think we just found out that Johnson & Johnson is only like 66% effective or something like that. Yeah. And so then
possibly may not be effective to any of the other new strains.
Exactly.
And okay, to that point, right?
Yes.
The new strains of coronavirus that are coming out, right?
Wuhan.
When you hear the media report that it may not be effective here, it may not be effective there, nobody fucking knows.
Yeah.
Understand that.
No one
That doesn't mean it's not effective. It means
don't know.
we don't know. There is so much of we don't know that nobody's willing to fucking say on air because otherwise they won't get as many clicks.
We'll tell you guys we don't know.
For fuck's sakes.
We don't know shit.
The only thing I know is what I went through. And it
Yeah.
seems to be a relatively decent ride compared to some people that I know that got it too. And mine, I mean, it was not enjoyable. I did not have a real good time
you had
with
it bad.
it. It was not great. But I'm not dead. And I know a dude the other day, 24 years old, got the Rona, no known comorbidities, dead within a week. Just
real?
happened. For real.
Fuck.
For real. Still fucking happens. If that doesn't indicate, if it just,
The shit is dangerous for realsies.
yes, it's fucking dangerous because we
But-
don't know almost anything about it. That's the most dangerous aspect of it.
But it doesn't mean everybody's going to die.
No, the fact that the numbers are still the numbers.
Yeah.
98, 99.8, whatever the fuck it is,
More lethal than the flu, but not as bad as we thought it was going to be.
right? Yes. By the numbers.
Yeah.
But we don't know what exactly makes somebody more, we don't know if you get the Rona, we don't know if you're going to die or not.
Right.
Right? We don't know because there's too many factors at play
You
here.
could even be asymptomatic. You can have it and literally not have any symptoms at all
Yep.
and recover and
You
not
could
even fucking
you
go.
could walk into the hospital and have, the symptom is your oxygen levels are like 91%, 89%, which means you're fucking dying, but you feel just fine.
Yeah.
That's a thing that's happening. But why? We don't know. We know that there are some factors like obesity that's tied to it. Diabetes is tied to it. Like various comorbidities.
Diabetes.
We have decided
Heart
that we can
disease.
make correlations that make sense. But we still don't know all of them. There's still cases out there that boggle the fucking mind. Homeboy was healthy. He was young. He was healthy. And now he's fucking dead. And we don't know why. But at the same time, I don't know how to put this without being
That's horrible.
morbid about it. But at the same time, we can't just put our head in the sand. and
Can't
just-
board up our windows.
No, we can't. We have to be. What was the old stay calm and carry on in World War II over in the UK? You still got to do. We still got to go. We still got to keep moving forward. We got to be smart about it. Fucking federal mask mandates on transportation hubs and conveyance systems. It's not going to be the way to solve this problem.
Right.
The way to solve this problem is to understand that it's not a left versus right issue anymore. It never was supposed to be. It took about 30 seconds for it to be. It literally took, what, a day? 12 hours? Before it finally became political? I remember when it first came out, we talked about it a little bit. But
Yeah.
none of that fucking matters. None of that fucking matters. What matters is being smart. We all know how to social distance, to stay away from each other, to not shake hands and fucking spit all over each other when we talk. And we all know how to be smart. You're hanging out at a fucking, your friend's house. Open the fucking windows. Just try to be smart about it and move forward with your life. That would make sense. I don't know what to do about this anymore. I don't know. We're at this point, we don't even have a road to recovery. Our road to recovery ends
At 25%.
at 25%. There's no fucking road to recovery here. And I don't think it's going to go anywhere. So
It doesn't look very good.
I want to give Paul some, Paul's obviously cutting people's hair. So that's good. I'm glad he's doing that because somebody's got to. Brother, I need a haircut real bad.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't look like it right now.
But for fuck's sakes, man, we can't just. We're gonna have to find a way to get on, to move on, to keep moving on, to keep moving forward while taking care of each other. We can do that, and we don't need daddy government to tell us how to fucking do it. We're smarter than that.
More government is not the answer in this case.
So hopefully here, very soon, the Northwest can reach phase 2, which
the Northwest District.
Yeah, the Northwest District. We can reach phase 2 where we can have an indoor maximum capacity of 25% at worship services. I don't know what that's from, but I like it. Is that
the Hunger Games?
Hunger Games. I really like those movies.
Good.
I heard the books were super great. Never got into the books, but like the movies were solid. Way better than that other series.
Twilight?
Nope. Divergent. Which was it was pretty alright.
Divergent was pretty okay.
I bet you that'd be a way better book series.
The movie was okay.
Did you ever see Maze Runner?
Yes.
I heard the Maze Runner.
I think we saw the
movies
first
were garbage.
2, right? The first one was pretty good. The second one was not very good. And we never saw the third one because the second one wasn't very good. So there's that.
So anyways. Yeah, that's where we're at, though.
So, Paul,
I
think that's what we have for you as far as opening. If there's anything that we didn't cover, let us know. Any more questions you have, we're more than happy to. We will obviously cover this as it comes on, as a Phase 3 is announced. If it's announced, we'll let you know. But as of now...
That's the thing that really bothers me, man. From the get-go, we had a start and an end point where hardcore pandemic-style restrictions to, like, normal life again. We're not even looking at normal life again?
Yeah.
That's...
Just
what are you
Phase 2.
What the fuck are you doing here?
You're supposed to forget about it.
Just forget about normal life.
This is the new normal, remember?
The new normal.
Phase 2 is the new normal.
Okay, so we covered the phases, we covered the districts, we covered where we're at, where we're going.
The shots.
The vaccines, the masking. I think that pretty much covers where we're at on the Rona.
I think so.
You know.
So, like I said, Paul, if there's anything that we didn't cover, let us
hit
know.
us up.
But on that, I think we're going to move to the death penalty. So,
yay!
Morgan.
Another one that's just super uplifting.
Before we move on to that, I just want to remind everybody to obviously, if you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and like and subscribe, share, comment, everything on this video. It helps people find it. If you're listening to this, go ahead and leave us a rating and a review. And like I said earlier, if you send me a screenshot of your rating and review, I will absolutely send you a T-shirt.
Hot
100%.
dog! That sounds like a deal.
It says it in the description of our episode. We
It does.
never talk about it. So, so I will do that. Rating and review. Help people find us. We obviously have our personal social media. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. I'm also at Salt of the Street on, what was it called? Clubhouse. He is a Big Bird Offie on all of those things. Salt of the Streets on Instagram, Salt of the Streets on YouTube, Salt of the Streets on Facebook, or saltofthestreets.com. That's all of it.
Yeah, on the internet.
Fuck Facebook.
On the internet.
That's it.
I'm curious to find out how this Clubhouse thing works, right?
Me too.
Because it's an invite-only situation.
Yeah.
Which tells me you're probably not served up a bunch of ads, right? Because they don't want everybody and their mother to come.
Larry, when you get to this point in the podcast,
hit us up.
Because last week he totally hit me up on Sunday and was like, "Oh, hey, you asked me in the pre-show if I did regular people's taxes, so I'm hitting you up."
I do everybody's taxes, baby.
So, Larry, when you get to this point, start a group chat in Signal between Colin and I.
You're on Signal, Larry?
He's on Signal. Yeah, him and I chat on Signal now. Yeah, so start a group chat on Signal and tell Colin and I, what the fuck were we just talking about? What am I asking him about?
What are you asking about?
Yeah.
Clubhouse.
Got so wrapped up on Signal. Start a group chat with Colin and I, and let's talk about teaching us how to use Clubhouse. Put us out there. You put us on, now put us out there.
That's right.
Okay, so
there was
death penalty.
One particular case
murder
in the capital murder topic that Morgan was asking about. Was that the Brandon? What was his name? Brandon Bernard?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so.
Okay, so
I looked up a bunch of different other recent cases, and fuck, that got dark.
Yes. So
let's just say these people were murdered by the state for reasons. Whether or not we have some ethical conversations about whether to cap, the state should be able to perform murder, we're going to get into. But
so our friend Morgan, the Ginger Ninja, hit us up the day
Dark
after
stuff.
Brandon Bernard was put to death, and she asked us about the history of the death penalty a little bit. So let me pull up a website on my phone that we can run through a little bit.
Oh, darn.
And then specifically any impact or influence or whatever that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had on the death penalty. And I believe she said something to the effect of, because if people, they need to be held accountable for what
They
they've
do.
done, like that's something to that effect. So
Also,
Morgan, this one is for you.
And it also goes in line with, well, we'll get into it later. I don't want to
Yes, and
give
so
the farm away.
that is why we are here. So we're going to talk a little bit about the death penalty. Obviously, the death penalty is like one of the oldest capital punishments
Since
in
Mesopotamia.
existence. I mean, yes,
Since Mesopotamia.
the
Since
Code of Hammurabi,
Yes.
eye for an eye. I mean, it
Yep.
is older than society itself, probably. I imagine
Yeah.
when we were cavemen, we were killing people for doing shit,
Yep.
fucking each other's wives or something. I don't know. That didn't really happen back then, so I don't. I'm sure there's one reason or another somebody was killed by another caveman,
You took my meat.
and everybody else was like, sounds about right.
Don't
So,
take my meat.
yes.
I need that meat.
So let's
Give me that meat.
see here. What are you talking?
We're grunting because we're cavemen and we want meat.
Oh, because we're cavemen.
Yes.
Okay. So let me go to the bottom. See.
Something interesting that I didn't know is the federal the location at which all federal death penalty cases are carried out was in one state in one city at one place.
Really?
That Terre Haute, I've never figured out how to do that.
In Indiana,
In Indiana, that place is where all
so everybody dies.
That's where all the like those federal cases. Yeah, they all go there.
Interesting. Do you know why?
I don't.
It's
I
just
was
how
not
they
able
did
to
it,
find
huh?
that. It's probably just one of the last ones around, but
Yeah.
all the states, not all the states, but various states have different methods that they would technically employ for the death penalty, depending on what state you're in.
Yeah.
Like Washington State, I know re-legalized hanging, death by hanging, in the recent future or in the recent past. But
There's-
then again, we also don't do the death penalty.
We also have, for some reason, an inordinate amount of fucking serial killers here. So
That is the thing.
I don't know what the deal is with that. But
I don't. Green
there
River, bro.
seems to be a lot of people who like to kill other people, sometimes eat them. That's fucking weird.
Maybe
so,
that's why the wives want to leave. I've never really put that together. Maybe there's something about the
it
state
the
that
murder?
turns people into serial killers.
is it the murder?
Murder.
Yeah. Well, to be fair.
To be fair.
I'm just kidding. That's all I got.
To be fair.
Okay. Death penalty in America. I'm just going to read a little paragraph for you real quick.
Do it up.
Britain influenced America. This is from deathpenaltyinfo.org. So this is a good resource for all kinds of information they had on here.
Whatever you do, don't look up the podcasts about death penalty.
Don't do that.
I went through like 4 of them. They're all really dry. Really dry.
Britain influenced America's use of the death penalty more than any other country, obviously. When European settlers came to the New World, they brought the practice of capital punishment. The first recorded execution in the new colonies was that of Captain George Kendall in Jamestown Colony of Virginia in 1608. Kendall was executed for being a spy for Spain. In 1612, Virginia Governor Sir Thomas Dale enacted the divine, moral, and martial laws, which provided the death penalty for even minor offenses such as stealing grapes, killing chickens, and trading with Indians. Laws regarding the death penalty varied from colony to colony. The Massachusetts Bay Colony held its first execution in 1630. Even though the capital laws of New England did not go into effect until years later, the New York colony, instituted the Duke's Laws of 1665. Under these laws, offenses such as striking one's mother or father or denying the true God were punishable by death.
Yeah, don't deny the one true God.
Yes. Let's see.
We've come a long way. Thank God.
Yes. So everything was pretty cool with the death penalty, as far as it is. There was pretty much just the way that everything went.
It also used to be one of the only forms of like public entertainment. People used to show up
Yes.
hardcore for executions, for state-sponsored execution, to watch a hanging,
Yeah.
to watch a beheading. The entire town would show up. They would bring their fucking kids
Yeah.
because it was entertaining. This is the reason. Hard times breed hard men. Hard men breed good times. Good times breed
Soft men?
soft men. Soft men bring hard times. There you go.
There you go.
We're at the hard time. We're at the soft men portion. As I brush my beard with a
Like
fucking
many
comb.
soft things in America, the abolitionist movement in regards to the death penalty started with the Quakers, obviously, and that was in the mid to late 1760s.
Yep.
That started to happen in the later 1700s when more and more people started to write out against it. It was in 1794. Pennsylvania repealed the death penalty for all offenses except first-degree murder in the 19th century. And so for those of you who are not into history, that means the 1800s, right? There's a surprising amount of adults that still are not able to differentiate between these things. So
Century 1 started with year 0.
we love all of you, so I'm not going to shit on you, but read a fucking book.
Just think about it. You'll figure it out.
Yes. In the early to mid-19th century, the abolition movement gained momentum in the Northeast. In the early part of the century, many states reduced the number of their capital crimes and built state penitentiaries. In 1834, Pennsylvania became the first state to move executions away from the public eye and carrying them out in correctional facilities. Right? So it was up until 1834. That's just in Pennsylvania that you could go and watch people be hanged, all kinds of shit, right? It wasn't until...
I'm kind of surprised they're not throwing that shit up on YouTube. You know
I think if they were, like, doing more of them,
they'd serve ads and the federal
They
government
probably would do it,
It'd be
yeah.
another way of taxation.
In 1838, in an effort to make the death penalty more palatable to the public, some states began passing laws against mandatory death sentencing, instead enacting discretionary death penalties. The 1838 enactment of discretionary death penalty statutes in Tennessee and later in Alabama were seen as a great reform. So let's see. With the exception of a smaller number of rarely committed crimes in few jurisdictions, all mandatory capital punishment laws had been abolished by 1963. During the Civil War, opposition to the death penalty waned as more attention was given to the anti-slavery movement. The electric chair was introduced by the end of the century. New York built the first electric chair in 1888, and in 1890 executed William Kemmler. Soon other states adopted this execution method.
You used to have to put the wet sponge on your head to make sure you got connectivity.
Yes. It was actually the first half of the 20th century that marked the beginning of the quote-unquote progressive period of reform in the United States from 1907 to 1917. 6 states completely outlawed the death penalty and 3 limited it to rarely committed crimes of treason and first-degree murder of law enforcement official. That's something that begins to reign as like a very consistent thing. So unless you kill a cop or somebody like a state official, or you're committing treason, we're not going to kill you. Treason hangs in there for a long time. That's if you're treasonous, we're fucking killing you regardless of what year it is. We're going in.
Which should also be a reminder of how rarely people should use that word.
Yeah.
Accusatory, in an accusatory fashion.
Yes.
Getting thrown around a lot recently.
After World War I, 5 of the 6 abolitionist states, Jesus Christ, reinstated their death penalty because of concerns around the Russian Revolution and uprising around that type of stuff. In 1924, this was the most American thing I read the whole time that I was doing this. So savagely American, right? In 1924, the use of cyanide gas was introduced as Nevada sought a more humane way of executing people. G. John was the first person executed by lethal gas. So this is the American part, right? The state tried to pump cyanide gas into John's cell while he slept, but this proved impossible, and the gas chamber was constructed. What? What?
We didn't have a good idea how gases worked back then.
Didn't know how it worked. Holes in the bar, so we're just gonna pump the gas in there,
and then
I'm sure there's 5 dudes standing around there like, he's fucking still breathing. Like, what is going on? I don't understand. So they're like, fuck it, it didn't work. So they just were like, we'll just build a box to put it in. Yes. How fucking hilarious. Like, it's not because they're killing somebody, but it is.
When did germ theory come out?
How stupid we were for so long. Still, right? We're still super dumb, but just absolutely hilarious that even in 1924, people are just dumber than shit. Like, we'll just pump all the gas into a cell, We're just, It's awesome. It's really awesome. So,
because it was it was before that, before we learned about, like, the idea of germ theory and stuff like that.
Yes.
So, still.
So from 1920s,
I would hope we were just ignorant about physics.
From the 1920s to the 40s, there was a resurgence of the death penalty. There was a lot of writings from criminologists that argued the death penalty was a necessary social measure. So
they're also really super into eugenics at the same time.
Yes.
Remember that.
And that was the idea, obviously, or of, deterrence. Like, we're going to kill people. It's going to deter them from doing crime. It's going to work, right?
Yeah. Don't steal this, otherwise we'll murder you.
In the 1950s, people started to really not like the death penalty. There starts, obviously, to be a greater understanding of psychology. More people writing, they're like, well, maybe this isn't the right way to do it. If you beat the shit out of a dog for 10 years, it's probably not going to be nice. Eventually, he's going to try and murder you. Like, there are all these things here that don't necessarily work in favor of the death penalty.
For fuck's sakes.
Yeah. In 1966, support for capital punishment reached an all-time low. A Gallup poll showed support for the death penalty at only 42%.
Boo, death penalty, boo.
Yeah, and so it's at that point where there starts to be big constitutional questions of, like, is this even okay? Can we even do this constitutionally? The 1960s brought challenges to the fundamental legality of the death penalty. The Fifth Amendment, the 14th Amendment, of cruel and unusual punishment, right? And so there was a while in 1958, the Supreme Court decided in Trope versus Duels that the Eighth Amendment contained an evolving standard of decency that marked the progress of a maturing society. And so that's when they were talking about there was like a standard of decency. The death penalty was cruel and unusual because the wait on death row in and of itself was punishment enough. And let's see. And then it was in the late 1960s, the Supreme Court began fine-tuning the way the death penalty was administered. The court heard in 1968 two cases dealing with discretion given to the prosecutor. The first case was U.S. versus Jackson, where the Supreme Court heard arguments regarding a provision of the federal kidnapping statute requiring that the death penalty be imposed only upon recommendation of the jury. The court held that this practice was unconstitutional because it encouraged defendants to waive their right to a jury trial to ensure they would not receive the death sentence. So this is a lot of like legal.
Yeah, you start getting into the loopholes
exactly.
at that point.
And so let's see. In 1971, they start talking about the role of jurors in capital cases. I'm trying to find the one where they talk about cruel and unusual punishment. And there's Furman versus Georgia, I believe, argued the capital case resulted in arbitrary and capricious sentencing. Furman, however, was challenging brought by the Eighth Amendment, which, Jesus Christ. Yeah, with the Furman decision, the Supreme Court set the standard that a punishment would be cruel and unusual if it was too severe for the crime or if it was arbitrary. And so that's how they start to argue that it's cruel and unusual punishment because they have to wait on death row this whole time.
Yeah. For a lot of times, decades.
Yes.
Decades.
Yes, because then there starts to be like mandatory appeals for death sentences, and so that's why it goes on for years and years and years, and redoing of trials and new juries, and it's
because what we're talking about here is fundamentally the state being able to take away an individual's most sacred right, and that's the right to live, right? Based off of accusations, whether, to varying degrees of provability, depending on what's going on. As science goes forward, new technologies are discovered. I mean, there's people that get released from jail now after serving 30 plus years because some new DNA evidence comes out or blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
How many people fucking died by the hands of the state because we didn't know what we were actually looking at? There's so much room for error when it comes to the death penalty. Put it this way. Let's put it this way. We've had this conversation before. Your iPhone.
Yes.
Your iPhone. You want the government to build your iPhone for you? Hard no. Why? Because they'd suck at it. They'd build some giant ass brick that wouldn't work half the time.
Yeah.
Do we really want to trust the state to make the call whether someone gets to live or fucking die? Probably not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust them to make my iPhone. Why am I going to put my life in their hands?
It's not something that I've been able to talk myself into being comfortable with the state deciding whether or not you should live or die.
No.
I've talked about this a bunch, especially in the last couple of weeks, that I'm
really uncomfortable with it.
Equally uncomfortable with using taxpayer money to allow someone to just live the rest of their life in a facility because we don't like what they did. Like, I don't like the idea of taxpayer money going to that. Like just
sucks.
Sustaining this person's life for however long they're going to live. And so it is darker than fuck, right? So you've got to everybody has to give me a little bit of leeway here. We're just talking openly, right?
We're engaged in the battleground of ideas.
If somebody who was known to be whatever, somebody who would have been put to death, right? But the death penalty doesn't exist because we decided the state shouldn't be killing people, right?
Yeah.
Somebody who would have been put to death is killed in prison by other prisoners. I don't necessarily feel like those people should be punished to a great degree. Do you know what I'm saying?
All right. What if I phrased it this way? What would you say about this?
And I do, because they took somebody's life,
Right.
but also, do you know what I'm saying? And that's so I understand
shit,
it's
I
a
had it
morbid
too.
concept. I'm sorry, I didn't mean
No,
to
no, no.
interrupt you,
I lost it before you started talking to me, so keep going.
but yeah, I'm uncomfortable with that, and I don't blame other people for not wanting that person to exist, especially in their same place or their whatever.
Yeah.
I
Do I feel like there are people out there that perform acts that at the end of the day, I would say probably makes it so they deserve to die? Yes. I think there are things that you can do as a human being where I will personally tell you, I think you don't deserve to live anymore. Do I think putting that into action gets infinitesimally more complicated? Yes. I don't know what you do about that. I like the idea of banishment. I like the idea of going out there, Emirate style, building an island and just banishing people to it and say, good luck. I'm done with you. We're done with you as a society. We banish you out of here. You have done something so heinous to our society. You do not belong anymore. Goodbye.
which is just like an off-land prison.
It's just an off-land piece of dirt where they can go fucking figure it out.
Yeah,
Fucking figure it out.
figured out.
But I got a real problem with some. Look at the arguments against for racial justice in the justice system, right? Lot of real good shit to be had in there, right? Some real tangible evidentiary pieces of situations that have been terrible transgressions on justice. What's to say that in 20, 30 years we're not going to look back and be saying the same exact fucking thing about stuff that's going on right now?
Yeah.
But we're killing people anyways. We're going to continue to end people's lives because of where we think, how do I want to put that? Where we, as on a society and on a legal basis and all that, because laws are a reflection of our societal rules and all that, we've decided they don't deserve to have they don't have the right to exist anymore.
Right.
Like I don't know that just due to the factor that we are human, right? We make mistakes. We are flawed beings. I don't know if I trust us to make the call that someone should live or die or not. I think that we have, and I think the problem here lies in the fact that we know there are certain societal transgressions that you can do that make it so that you do not get to be in our society anymore, like a life sentence, right?
Right.
Well, you've done something, and you don't get to be a part of this anymore, right? You get to go be locked in a cage. And I can understand that, but I don't feel comfortable with the idea that we are so sold on our ability to decide whether or not you get to live or not, that like we're not going to make mistakes along the way. And if there is one innocent life that gets taken under the auspices of justice,
Yeah.
that is flawed in any way, that is a mortal sin against the society. That we should not allow that possibility to exist.
Yeah.
Taking one life away from an innocent life, the
Right,
possibility,
right.
a 1% chance.
Right.
Because that 1% chance could fucking be you.
Well, especially because
be
that
you.
would be a thing that, like, I feel that we would classify under, like, there are things that you, like, forfeit your right to life.
Yeah.
Taking innocent life, it starts to fall into that category. Yeah. So if you or I, as actors of the state, have then taken an innocent life, have we then begun to forfeit our right to life because we've taken innocent life, even if it was with all of the best intent in the world?
Oops.
Right.
There's no room for oops, man.
Right.
There's just none.
So
Put yourself in the shoes of somebody that's about to be murdered for something they didn't do.
And so that's the death penalty in general.
In general.
Right? And
yes.
so now we can talk a little bit about
cases.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I found this really great article from Mother Jones, right?
Yes.
What is this that you have here? Are you trying to are you showing me
zoomed
something?
in. I love
Oh,
this,
that's
right?
that's the
So
facility.
This
okay.
is the facility, right? And I was like, okay, Google Maps. Oh, they got a little. Okay, so you can drop the little man on the Google, see the street view. Where does it end? It ends at the gates to the facility, which are surrounded by open, like flat open
Oh, yeah.
pasture.
What's the fucking point of that?
And then there's 2 guard shacks with the gate across the road.
Because you couldn't just drive around it.
Especially because it's really fucking flat.
Yeah.
You could totally drive around that.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on here? Why do we have a
Especially in
gate
a truck
here?
like that one?
What is going on?
That's dumb.
I don't understand this.
That's dumb. So I found this really great article from Mother Jones.
Yes.
Right?
There it is.
So we're going to start with Joe Biden, right? And this article is entitled "Biden Once Championed the Death Penalty. Now He Wants to Stop Trump's Execution Spree." And it was written
Ooh. Yeah,
November 19th,
There it is.
2020. There it is. So this was just shortly, well, like right after the election, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So there you go.
It's
So
amazing how none of these articles came out before.
So Joe
the
Biden
election. Weird.
has obviously spoken extensively about, I wrote the damn bill, the 1994 crime bill, and what what a huge pivotal hand he played in it, and all this stuff,
Which
right?
is a line he stole from Bernie Sanders
Yes,
during the debates.
it is important to remember that, or to understand that the modern death penalty in America exists largely due to the 1994 crime bill. Right?
Yes.
We talked a lot about that history and stuff like that. In the 70s, it starts to get really hairy with like really particular cases about breaking specific things down that I started to get into. I really don't want to read too much because no one really gives a shit.
It gets
if you
real
do, I think that's a really great resource for it, what I was talking about, that website.
What was the website again?
So it was
Deathpenalty.org or something?
deathpenaltyinfo.org. Yes.
There you go. Deathpenaltyinfo.org.
And they have all of the citations here for all of the different papers and everything. They have all this information. It's all there.
love
All the citations.
citations.
Yeah. So
One thing you don't get in a news article that accuses somebody of anything is a citation.
yes. So I think the first thing that I would say is one of the big things that Biden touted, at least at the time, right? Because a lot of, again, and we'll talk about this again, so I'll get to that. One of the big things that he touted at the time is that the 1994 crime bill expanded the amount of death penalty offenses that were available federally, right? And I don't remember what it was before, but it expanded it to 53.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a quote here. It provides, because at the time, many Republicans wanted to try and take shots at Joe Biden, that this wasn't tough enough, that it needed to be harder on crime, which we know now is fucking stupid.
Because at the point, at 1994 in like the early 90s, late 80s, like in places like New York City,
She was terrible.
it was a rough place to hang out.
Horrible.
Like it's unrecognizable from the New York City of today. Although if we're not careful, another 5-6 years from now, it might look the same way.
So I'll just read your quote from real quick. Back in 1992, Democrats and Republicans competed for who was tougher on crime. Biden, then senator from Delaware, responded to critics of the proposed crime bill who claimed it was too weak. He bragged that his proposed crime legislation vastly expanded crimes that could be eligible for the federal death penalty. Quote, "It provides 53 death penalty offenses. Weak as can be, he said. We do everything but hang people for jaywalking in this bill." The final result was the crime bill, which created mandatory minimum sentences and expanded eligible death penalty crimes, among other things. So that's a big one. The mandatory minimum sentences, right?
Yes. And okay, let's read that one more time.
Yes.
Quote, "It provides 53 death penalty offenses. Weak as can be, he said. We do everything but hang people for jaywalking in this bill."
And it's obviously
Who said
he's
that?
trying to make a joking light of it, but
Yeah.
that's not very fucking funny.
That's your fucking president
yes.
that you all stood behind and voted for. Nobody did their goddamn research on who the hell they were looking at. Oh,
And the result of this, right, between 1988 and 1994, there were 6 people that were put to death federally as a result of the death penalty. And between 1994 and 2019, there was 79. 79. And so that's obviously quite an uptick, an increase of 73 in that time frame. And again, this is a direct result to the 1994 crime bill because it expanded the amount. Oh, you all right?
Yep. Just stub your toes going around there. It's cool.
Oh, Jesus Christ. It expanded the amount of death penalty crimes that were available federally. So
It's reality.
That's
I don't know what you got to say. There's nothing else to add to that. It just kind of is what it is.
But since then, Biden has come out against the death penalty. It took deep into the presidential race for that to be a case. Really, once Donald Trump was saying, well, I'm going to start running these executions. Once Donald Trump announced that he was going to resume federal executions, then Joe Biden came out and said, oh, because we can't know 100% of the time, then we can't do this.
Yeah.
So,
which,
as we talked about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, just given that fact, right?
Yes.
It's been how many years since his crime bill?
Right.
Do you give him the benefit of the doubt and be like, okay, no, he fucking figured it out. He learned it.
So that's what I was just going to say, right? Is that we talked last week when I brought up it is like the health advisor or something, whoever the fuck I was talking about, right? That had made all those comments about black people being inherently better because of the melatonin. We talked about that last week.
Yes.
And so you reminded me.
God, who the fuck was that?
Don't remember, but you reminded me.
Health and Human Services?
Yes, that these comments were in the 90s, like it was a while ago this happened, and so I think that it's important that you said that because that's exactly the point that I was going to make, right? Is that it is important to remember that these statements were made in 1994, these actions he carried out in 1994. That's a long time. I'm 26 years old. I was born in 1994, so it's been 26 years since this happened. Certainly, you can grant that someone's opinions can change between 1994 and now, right? It's important then for you to decide whether it matters more to you that he's vowed that he won't carry out federal executions under his watch, or that it's his direct doing that laid out the death penalty as it exists in America today.
Like how many deaths are partially on his hands? It's a personal choice,
and I wouldn't judge anybody either way, right? And so I'm kind of speaking directly to you because you're the one that asked this, that in regards to Joe Biden, it's up to you to decide which one means more to you. And again, I'm not.
And that's a personal choice.
I'm not placing value either way.
100%.
I'm not like it's up to you. I mean genuinely.
So everybody would need to square that away.
Everybody, but I only say Morgan just because I know.
Yeah.
Morgan, I only say you because you asked specifically, but it is up to everybody to decide because he's the president now, and he's going to have an impact on America. Yeah. It's important for everyone to decide if it matters more to you that he has said, right? Because we've seen that he's not very good at keeping his word, even just 10 days into his presidency. He's said that he's not going to execute any more people federally.
Yeah. Which I would believe is something he would hold to.
I think it's probably 100%. Pretty easy. There was a 16-year
Shut
moratorium on federal executions until Donald Trump decided he was going to continue it.
Which doesn't mean state executions don't still happen.
No,
by the way.
Federal executions, that's extremely important. Yes. Federal executions, because every state has their own death penalty for their own crimes. What they're going to do, California doesn't do their shit.
We don't do
it. They still have people on death row, but we don't execute people anymore.
Yeah.
I think
we got rid of it in 2018.
I'm not sure.
Capital punishment in Washington State was abolished on October 11, 2018, when the state Supreme Court ruled it was unconstitutional as applied. Blah blah blah. So it doesn't. So it's on the books, which is exactly why, like in Washington State, it's illegal to hang somebody for state. But at the same time, it doesn't sound like we technically can. But we haven't gotten rid of it yet. That's one of those not my problem right now. So we'll wait till it comes up in the courts again.
And one of the big problems for a while. Oh, let's just.
Yeah, go ahead and finish.
Yeah, no, and that's all that we were going to say. It's just that at this point, it's up to you guys to decide whether it means more to you that Biden has said that he's not going to and potentially won't carry out any federal executions, or that, like I said, his legislation that he owns and brags about still to this day laid out the federal death penalty.
He apologizes for it sometimes, depending on what aspect of it he gets called out on.
He still walks out with it, you know.
And I mean,
but
personally, I am much more in favor. I'm much more on the side of like, okay, at this point in time, he says no more federal executions. Word. Down with that.
Yes.
Much better than the opposite.
Yes.
Much better than the opposite. I'll take that all day.
Yeah.
Hypocrisy, change of mind, don't really care at this point. The ends at this point, I get it. I got it.
Oh, what I was going to say about the death penalty is I know that in the last couple of years we've run into a problem with the company that makes the chemicals that are used for lethal injection said they were going to stop making those chemicals.
Yeah.
And so now there's like a stay on it even more. That's like, well, we don't even know how we're going to do this because we can't even procure these chemicals anymore.
We've decided that you don't get to live anymore, but it needs to be humane.
Yeah.
Which I still have
And
problems
we're not
with.
sure exactly how we're going to go about that.
If you can't figure it out, maybe that's a sign that
You're
you're probably not doing something right.
No.
Right? Maybe you shouldn't be doing it. Maybe we should just figure something else out.
Right.
You doesn't have to be a choice between like, okay, so we're going to murder this guy? Well, how are we going to murder him? Maybe we don't have to murder him. Maybe there's something else. We don't need to let him go. We don't need to let him. Maybe we don't have to keep him in a cage for the rest of everyone's lives. Maybe there's something else we can do between keep him in a cage and murder him.
It's got to be something.
There's got to be something we can do. Send him to the moon. Let's have a penal colony on the moon. A little hard to run away from that shit.
That's how
Elon.
That's how we'll terraform.
For-profit prison. We'll call it
Oh God.
Prison X, baby. Let's do it.
Oh, that's another thing that we should note is that Joe Biden did also say they are not going to renew any more contracts with private prisons. It's important to know that only like 9% of prisoners are held in private prisons, but
Especially because you're talking about
federal
federal,
prisoners,
which is like Rikers.
That's not to say that it's nothing, but it's not exactly as it was touted.
It's better than nothing.
But do you have anything else to say on Joe Biden in particular?
As it pertains to the death penalty, we'll move on.
Kamala Harris. As far as Kamala Harris goes, because she has
Yep.
really only been a senator less than 6 years, right?
Yeah.
She didn't even finish a whole term before she became vice president.
Yep.
So
Most
she
of her-
hasn't really had time to affect the federal death
right.
penalty, right?
Federal.
She's only she's been able to use it and work with it and discuss it in her statewide capacities, right? So that's Attorney General and District Attorney in California. So
Amen.
it's important to understand that before we continue.
And actually, I
But-
wonder if that case is still up on Kamala Harris.
Kevin Cooper? Is
dot
that who you're talking about?
info.
Oh. Anyway, while you're looking that up, I will start here.
Kamala Harris for arresting the people. I love this website.
As District Attorney and Attorney General, she ran against the death penalty. The whole time, she always said that she was against the death penalty.
There it is.
And
Proposed DNA testing that might get a black man off death row.
Yes, and
There
so
it is.
we'll talk about that a little bit later. She declined to call for the death penalty in special circumstances, which was in 2004. There was a police officer that was killed on the streets, and in that particular instance, like we talked about, right? There are state by state, there are different crimes that still will allow for the death penalty in special circumstances, quote unquote. In this quote unquote special circumstance, she refused to call for the death penalty, and so that's one thing that people are like, oh, well, she does not, she doesn't like it. Like she's, against it and stuff. And then, as you were talking about later, Kevin Cooper, right, was somebody who found himself on death row. And there were appeal after appeal after appeal after appeal, as there is.
As there should be.
As
If you're
there
gonna
should be if you're talking about
killing
taking
somebody,
somebody's life, right? And as the appeals go on later, well, as time goes on, DNA evidence starts to become a thing, and so now there's an appeal to try and test DNA, right? And Kamala Harris opposed it. You have the article up here, so if you want to...
And then there's Kevin Cooper, the death row inmate whose trial was infected by racism and corruption.
Yes,
He
the
sought
judge.
advanced DNA testing to prove his innocence, but Miss Harris at the time opposed it. After the New York Times expose of the case went viral, she reversed her position.
Yeah.
And this was back during her campaign. Again, this is why she dropped out before her own home state primary.
And if you remember, this is what Tulsi Gabbard was roasting her for,
Just
and that time
devastated her.
when they got into it.
Tulsi, that right before the debates, I swear, she must have pulled up KamalaHarris.info
Yeah.
and looked at all the... It is a parody website. I know I've talked about it before. it's a parody website about Kamala Harris, and there's one for Joe Biden too, joebiden.info.
Right.
About, I mean, and it pulls legit articles from sources that are NewsGuard certified, and that most of the time, like that last piece was from the New York Times. They have some articles from the Daily Beast, factcheck.org.
Yes.
You know, another New York Times one about, some, these people's rise to power and their dark history of things, like defended the death penalty. New
Yes,
York Times.
that's what I was just going to say. Is
Yep.
that in 2014 there was an initiative, a proposition done by the people, put forward to try and abolish the death penalty in California. There's a 45-day window for the Attorney General to decide whether or not they're going to appeal it, and she did appeal this decision on the death penalty, right?
Yeah, it was Prop 47.
And one of the big things in this particular article that I'm looking at is a CNN article, is this person, Haydar Aviram. She's a professor. She was talking about how Kamala Harris refused to defend Proposition 8, the California voter-approved law that declared same-sex marriage unconstitutional. She and the governor believe the voter initiative infringed on the civil rights of same-sex couples. Their actions paved the way for the case to reach the Supreme Court, which later ruled in favor of allowing same-sex marriage. As 45 days ticked away, Aviram thought she was right about Harris. So imagine our surprise, quote, so imagine our surprise when a couple of days before the clock runs out, the Attorney General decides to appeal the decision, and it was an upsetting piece of news to receive. And she is talking about the decision to overturn the death penalty in California. So that is one thing that a lot of people point to. They're saying, well, you're not really against death penalty because you could have let it just be abolished. And for some reason, you decided to appeal it. You didn't need to. You didn't have to, because you didn't in regards to same-sex marriage. You did, the death penalty.
And not to say that
I don't
her
know.
opposition to it was in any form like an actual principled argument.
Right.
It was probably, just looking at the time, just something that, like, you take this stance or that stance based off of which direction the political winds are blowing that day.
Yeah, and
Because
it wasn't.
that's the way she's run most of her career, especially as Attorney General
Yes.
of the state of California.
And it wasn't until this year that Gavin Newsom actually overturned the death penalty.
Yeah.
And so that was in 2011, I think that it said. So that's, what I'm saying.
If that doesn't express to you how infinitely complicated most people's views on the death penalty are,
Yeah.
how the implementation of it is supposed to go, I don't know how more complicated you can get, man. Every politician that has a stance on it at one point seemed to have flip-flopped from another stance.
Yes.
Which is just, goes with the times, I guess. But I love it, man. Two different death penalty stories on
so I
her
have this
.info.
ABC News article referring to Kevin Cooper. Cooper was convicted of killing a couple, their young daughter and her friend, a young boy who was sleeping over at the family's home in Chino Hills, California. The couple's 8-year-old son survived the attack and was found with a knife wound across his neck. During the sentencing phase of the case and later appeals, Cooper's attorney alleged that evidence that had been tampered with or manipulated, and the defense argued that the description of the attacker offered only the surviving victim did not resemble Cooper. The then 8-year-old victim said in his videotaped testimony that he believed 3 men who had visited his home earlier that night could have been the attackers, but did not testify that multiple people were present during the attack. The victim would later testify before court against Cooper. What followed was a lengthy battle by Cooper's attorney to appeal the case, first to the state's court, then the Ninth Circuit Appeal Court in 2004. 2 days prior to the scheduled execution, an appeals court stayed Cooper's impending execution, and his lawyers filed a new appeal. In 2009, the panel of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals rejected Cooper's appeal 2-1. And then the question of Harris's actions surfaced later when Cooper and his lawyers asked the state to approve additional DNA testing, which they argued could exonerate him. Harris's team did not take up the case, and the evidence from the crime scene was never re-examined while Harris held state office. Cooper's attorney objected to the decision, citing in the 2016 clemency request, quote, advanced forensic testing is now available that could show Mr. Cooper is innocent of these crimes, but the state refuses to permit him. Cooper's attorney wrote, Harris has since changed her views on Cooper's request after a lengthy New York Times examination of the case. She issued an emotional statement telling the Times she felt, quote-unquote, awful about this. That's
I
really
feel
funny.
so awful about this.
Yeah.
Now that you bring it up and are grilling at me about it, I feel really awful.
Yeah. Cooper has
If
won
that's not
himself
an
an
out-
advocate in reality star Kim Kardashian West in recent weeks. In May, Kardashian posted a picture of herself with Cooper. So he ended up getting the DNA testing, and they're actually still waiting for it to come back. But that was obviously
After
after
she
she
left.
was yes.
After she left. After she
there
became
was
a senator.
new attorney general,
Yeah.
the DNA testing got approved, and they're awaiting the results, which seems weird. Like, what the fuck is taking so long?
Right. Well, that the speed of our justice system at work. I mean,
You can
there's
find out if
there's
you're a
so
baby daddy
many
in a
problems.
week, but you can't find out whether or not you murdered somebody in a week. That seems weird. Did you murder 4 people?
2021.
I don't know. The state
don't
won't
know.
tell me yet. I found out since then that I have 3 extra children, but
Oh my
I don't know
God.
whether or not I murdered these people.
Dude, they added 2 more articles to KamalaHarris.info.
Hilarious.
They added Kamala Harris believed accusers of Joe Biden.
Yes.
It called him
Yes.
some very nasty things on
Yes.
television. I remember that. And then failed to aid children abused by Catholic priests.
Oh my God.
Story by The Intercept. I haven't read that one yet. I can't wait to dive into that. That's going to be juicy. That's the next president of the United States, by the way.
So, Morgan, that would be. That's what I have in regards to Kamala Harris. So,
Yeah. Joe
That is that.
Biden wrote the damn bill. Kamala Harris just decided that
Joe Biden
she
wrote
didn't
the
want to
damn
deal with
bill.
it.
yeah.
Which, again, is no reflection on, necessarily who they are today. Really just speaks to their
Not
character.
necessarily.
Doesn't necessarily speak to how they're going to implement policy going forward. Because if that's not the fucking problem with politics nowadays, I don't know what is. It doesn't matter what you did 6 years ago, 10 years ago in your political career, because you're going to do a whole brand new set of things now based off of whatever your constituency wants you to do.
Yeah.
You're not going to have any kind of principled stance anywhere.
No, and we saw the flip flopping. You referenced it earlier, but another good
everywhere.
example is like when she talked about Medicare for all, right? Came out adamantly opposed to it, and
That
then
was
she was in favor of
back
it, and then
and
she was
forth and
against
back
it
and
again,
forth.
and then she was for it.
Yeah.
We saw it over and over and over again, and her staffers coming out immediately after debates to be like, oh, well, what she meant was this. Like, that's not really what she said.
Yeah.
It's nonsense. I'm not going to link back to those, but those were during the debate, so you can go back
so
and
rough,
find
man.
those episodes. Yeah, if you care about it, then you can. But a bunch of people are going to be like, "Oh, that was fucking so long ago. Who cares?" And that's exactly what. Yeah. So Morgan, that is what we have on Kamala Harris. Do you have anything else to add to Kamala Harris?
I have a single question.
Yes.
Because I don't know if I feel like I probably articulated my personal stance on it. If you were to articulate your personal stance on capital punishment, real quick, sum it up. It's complicated.
I guess at this point I would have to err on the side of caution and say that I don't think that it should exist.
1% chance is a little too much for you.
I don't think that the state should be deciding whether or not people should live or die. I don't think that's
Okay.
I don't think they should have that control.
Yeah, after everything we just went through, I was like, I don't know if we really got a hard, solid where you at.
After that, it's super hairy for me. You know, especially of question. Obviously, if I don't know if somebody is guilty or not, I'm not going to be okay with them being murdered by a bunch of other people who think that they're guilty.
Yeah.
We don't know that. I'm not cool with it.
Like a lot of people feel like Jeffrey Epstein deserved to die.
You know what I'm saying? If
There's a
I
lot of-
know for certain that you have raped children just repeatedly for decades, am I going to be upset if other people find out and decide to fucking kill you? Probably not. Do I
not
necessarily
really gonna care.
agree with that? No, because
No one-
again,
who
it's
has the
not
right to take a life?
what I'm saying. So
It's kind of like
it's super, that's dark. Like I'm sure there are many people like I can't believe you would fucking say that. I'm sure, but I don't.
I think when it comes to like sexual abuse of children, most people are kind of like, yeah, no, they shouldn't be. They don't deserve to be on breathing the same air.
I mean,
as us.
sexual abuse of adults. You
But
know, I mean,
who
there's
somebody has to make
That's
the
what I'm
call,
saying.
and somebody has to pull the trigger, pull the lever, press the
I
button.
don't know where the
squeeze
line
the
is.
plunger.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Anyways, so that's the death penalty.
yeah. Do you want to do our hills to die on?
Fuck yeah. Let's
Cool.
do that.
We can do that, and then we can talk about the Super Bowl, and then we can get out of here.
Yeah, we're 2:30ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds about good.
I like
You
it
know?
because we always spin off on our hills.
Yeah. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I think you should go first this time.
Okay.
You got this.
Okay. So my hill to die on this week for everybody. If you haven't, we didn't do this last episode, so if you don't remember, the hill to die on is a relatively new segment that we're doing. That is, as it states, it is our hill to die on a position that we are willing to defend to the end of the earth. And so that's where we're at this week. You can go back to our last few episodes, minus last episode, and hear them. I believe I have them timestamped. If not, they're usually towards the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So here we go. My hill to down this week is that this country belongs to us.
Ooh.
And I don't mean us as Americans. I mean us as the non-elites, as the regular people, as the 99%.
The plebs.
Right? The plebes. The elites are scared. We saw that on January 6th. We've seen it every day since then.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it by them showing us that they want them to play with finances and not you. They want armed protection, but not for you. They want paychecks, not for you. These people don't care about you. There is relatively little I could think that anybody could say to me that would exhibit that any of these people care about any of us. As I talked about earlier, Nancy Pelosi is already thinly pushing forward the ideals of gun control. We've seen it, a renewed push for it in all of these blue states now that Joe Biden is in office. We've talked already about how none of these lawmakers, regardless of what they've done with their paychecks, have not missed a single paycheck in the entirety of the coronavirus. We have seen that although they would like to take your Second Amendment rights away, all of you new 8 million gun owners, I'm talking really kind of directly to you, they want to bring in 25,000 armed soldiers to make sure that they can do what they want. They want to have armed people in their capital, but not you. In regards to GameStop, right? We saw earlier this week that when people on the internet decide that they're going to play the exact same game that millionaires and billionaires have played for decades in this country and fuck over other people who don't know better, they get stopped. The regulators get called in. The president of the NASDAQ goes on MSNBC and asks for more regulation in the market for probably the first time ever.
Blew my mind.
Millionaires and billionaires going on live TV saying, we're doing this because we care about you, because you don't know what you're doing. You're not a professional. You might lose your money. You're going to lose all your money, and then what? Someone's going to be left holding the bag, but it's not going to be them. Because they'd rather block your access to apps and force you to sell off your shares before they want to risk losing all of their money.
Highly illegal.
So I would end by saying, do not give up your rights. Do not reelect this leadership. None of these people deserve your support. None of these people deserve anything other than a swift kick in the ass and us telling them all to get the fuck out of office. This country belongs to you.
God damn, brother. That was clap, 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 clap. I mean, I kind of want to kick you in the balls because that's more or less what I was going to say. But if that does not speak to what has happened the last 2 weeks, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think about this till like late last night when I was in the middle of moving all this shit around. I was like, oh, bro, we didn't do Hills Down last week. We should do that again.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I got one. Everything that's been happening recently is all basically the same type of shit. It's us versus them mentality. So I'm going to take a different tact. I'm going to pivot slightly on this one, right? How do I want to phrase this? Because I want to say hypocrisy. But I could do a hypocrisy every single episode if we wanted to.
I really
right?
want a shirt that says, hypocrisy.
Yeah. It sustains me.
We always say it's delicious. You know?
Because
like
if
it's so delicious, this hypocrisy.
If we could all learn to eat and sustain ourselves on hypocrisy, we'd never go hungry.
Never.
At least with our government.
Not in America.
So how let's see. If I was going to kind of pivot here with this.
Yeah, sorry to jack your...
I'm going to... The hill to die on for myself would be... I would like to caution... This is a cautionary tale. There was a time in history at which a system of government, it's much like ours, very similar. In fact, ours is based off of it. There was this new idea in political power where the people's opinion, the opinion of the people must be represented.
Yes.
At the highest levels of authority, right? And there was a couple people that did this, and the brothers Gracchi, the Gracchus brothers, the Gracchi brothers, the old ancient Romans. and they decided to champion. They were called the tribute of the plebs. They were championing the plebs. They were championing the people's voice to the Senate. This is what we would commonly refer to now as populism, right? We've spoke before about this, or we've gone back and pulled that Men in Black line, where Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones' character, they're sitting on a park bench in New York. And, Will Smith is asking him, why don't we just tell the people that aliens exist? Like, we're grown-ups, we're human, we can handle it, we adapt, blah, 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 we're good people. Tommy Lee Jones says, it's like, a person is smart. People are dumb, scared, wild animals.
Yeah.
This populism is nothing more than the people's outrage being broadcast on high. And you ever heard the term, you should sleep on it? Populism is like that, except without sleeping on it. It's all the anger, all the frustration thrust forward, channeled in an imperfect way through an imperfect avatar. That's what Trump was. He was an avatar of populism. He was an infinitely imperfect and ill-suited avatar to represent a populist message from one side of the populist position.
That's maybe the best way that I've heard.
You can't say left or right?
Yeah.
So
he would have taken anybody, man.
yes, and populism is it's shooting from the hip. It does not think logically. It acts on raw emotion and power. There is no good decisions that a populist can make at the time, because they're trying to do one thing and one thing only, and that is gain power. This is what happened during the last 2 election cycles, including this last one. Populism has ruled the day for a very long time in this country, and it has grabbed a hold. I mean, the grab that it has on it, the hold that it has on us right now is so popular. We are cheering that our entire system of how we value the market and items in the market, we're cheering because the mob has risen up and told the money lenders that they need to get the fuck out because we're going to steal their money, because we figured out their system and we knew how to steal their money back from us. And we took the money back. And that it is cause for celebration. I'm celebrating. I'm laughing. I'm so excited about this whole thing that's going on right now, because rich assholes who have done nothing but sit there and flout their money over us because they're elitist pieces of shit have gone up there and they've stolen money out of our pockets. Did you see? I think they talked about it on Rising on Friday. I can't remember where I saw this crap, but during 2020, when the everyday normal people of America had their worst economic year in since the Great Depression, guess who had the greatest economic year? The 1%. The 1%. That is real. And that causes a rise in populism to come up. But populism is dangerous.
I have heard, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I've heard, just because you said that, that 2020 was the greatest upward motion of wealth in the history of America.
The plebs got poorer and the rich got richer. Jeff Bezos has more money than anyone else on the world. He surpassed Elon Musk again. Poor guy. But
God damn it.
Elon Musk is weird, right? He's a weird case because he is kind of he's a pleb.
He also burns mad capital.
He does. He was broke and homeless when he put up Tesla, because he put every single fucking penny that he had from his, what was it, PayPal at the time? Yeah, into Tesla, and just said, well, and he fucking had to couch surf for a while till the company got off the ground. So I guess my hill to die on is a cautionary tale of beware of populism. It seems right. It feels right. They say all the right things. They do all the right things. They make people happy. They give you money. They give you good regulations. But it will be the end of us all, because in a populist society, 51% overrules the 49%, and it puts us against each other, and we tear each other apart. We're already at that point on a societal manner. We're already hating the Trump voter.
Right.
Trumpism is a thing. Substitute Trumpism for populism. Call it Team A and Team B because they're not Republicans, they're not Democrats anymore. There's more. What was that book that Jack Murphy wrote? Democrat to Deplorable. There are more Democrats that voted for Hillary Clinton that supported Trump than there are Trump supporters that voted for Obama. And that says something about what Trump represented. So my hill to die on is populism and the staving off of populism. We need to stop it. We need to watch it. We need to not be taken in by it. And we'll leave it at that.
Let this be a warning to you of the popular vote.
I don't want to end up. You know what happened after the Roman Republic fell due to populism? Became the Roman Empire. Who do you want as your next Caesar? You must choose, but choose wisely.
I definitely don't want Kamala Harris.
Well, that's what you got for the next 4 years at least.
Not my president.
Not my president.
Not my president.
Oh, yeah. She's still going to be the one to throw you in a cage for the rest of your life. Anyways.
With that, do you want to talk about, should we give a brief
GameStop?
GameStop?
Okay.
And then, because the Super Bowl, sports! The
Sports!
Super Bowl is happening, I think like the 3rd of February. I don't know. We look at the date of the Super Bowl. It is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers
And they're
and
playing
the
at
Kansas
home?
City Chiefs.
Right.
And they're playing at home. How fucking
Is it
random.
the first time in
February
history?
7th. First time in history, the Super Bowl, someone has played in their own
Tom
stadium.
Brady has home field
It's
advantage.
decided years in advance. It's like
Yeah.
it's completely chance. Yeah,
It's like the Olympics, bro.
it's
They
like
figured
4
out a
years.
few seasons
Yeah, I
back.
think they have the Super Bowl picked out like 4 years from now. It's staked out. So 7th Sunday, February
Limited
7th at
in-person
3:30.
attendance. Really?
Yes,
Really,
I
you
heard a
think?
bunch of people months ago, on like NPR. Like, I don't think they should even have the Super Bowl. They shouldn't let anybody there.
They
Fuck
shouldn't do
you.
that.
Fuck you. This is fucking America. If I want to go to a fucking Super Bowl, if it's a goddamn football game, I'm going to go to a fucking football game. Like, what the fuck?
I wonder.
At what point did
Limited in-person.
adults decide that they should decide what other adults should be doing with themselves? Like, when did that become the thing,
Okay. Let me.
That's so weird.
It just kind of hit me here real quick. How long ago was this decided? Right. It was a while.
The Super Bowl thing?
Yeah. It's been a while, right?
Do you
What are
mean
the fucking
teams
odds?
or
No. Where the location? The location.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah.
Because it's in Florida.
Right. Right.
What's Florida's COVID restrictions as far as gatherings in
Hey!
public go? I mean, could you have a better happenstance here? You want to get some people in the stands? We fuck get some people.
Florida's
in the
going to
stands.
make a
We're Florida,
shitload
baby.
of money. Florida's going to
Fuck
make a
yeah.
shitload of money during the Super Bowl. That's for sure.
No, they already are too, man. Florida and
What?
Texas.
Oh,
Oh, Scott goes. What?
I don't know.
Who goes?
It's the Super
You know
Bowl.
somebody's
really
gonna go?
expensive to go to.
Hard, yeah.
Our friends Scott and Kaylee live in Tampa.
Oh yeah.
The
that's
Super
right.
Bowl is like
They moved to
really
old Florida.
expensive to go to. It'll be more expensive to go to because they have to make more money from each person that goes. So
Oh man.
yeah, I don't even
Dude.
want to know what a Super Bowl ticket costs this year.
These people,
lot.
The people that will be able to afford to go to the Super Bowl this
Ooh.
year will not be upset about eating a $15 hot dog.
No, you know what? I'm pretty sure that like a bunch of first responders are going to get to go. I
Ooh,
believe that,
that would be
a
cool.
fraction of the audience is first responders. I
A
believe
fraction.
that's
Some fucking token amount.
well. There's like even in Kansas City, I think they were only doing like 27% attendance in their stadium. So
It's weird.
it's super random amount. Yeah,
It's probably an even number.
I heard no, it was an odd number. 7 was in there. I don't remember if it was 17 or 27. I swear to God. I swear to God. It was
At
a
that
really
point,
weird
do
number.
they get like the best seats in the house? I mean, come on.
No, they're spread all over the stadium. Yeah.
All
But
you
they
need
have
is
to
6
social
feet,
distance.
for God's sakes.
Well, but you got
Once
like
every 6 seats
you got
because
like
they're
4
about
people,
a foot wide.
but you got like groups of 4, like families that are coming, and so you need there's like, but you got to have like 6 feet all around, and they have to be able to walk to like. You should look at it. It's you should try and see if you can find some
The math
pictures.
makes my head fucking
COVID
hurt.
football stands. It's a thing. So what do you think? Tampa Bay, Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady. Babe, what do you think?
I already was embarrassed.
Do you think
so.
the GOAT takes it home? What do you think?
Of course he's gonna fucking take it. He's an
Think he's
asshole.
gonna take it?
Fucking Tom Brady, piece of shit. Knocked out my.
I don't even want to say anything because I'm like I don't.
They're gonna win. Come on, it's Tom Brady. He's the GOAT. Statistically, he's the
7?
GOAT.
You know what I'm saying?
I hate him.
6 rings would be.
Fuck. I fucking hate Tom Brady.
What do you? He just has 5 now, right?
I
It's
called
just
the
5.
Bills winning everything last week, so or 2 weeks ago. That didn't happen. He's got 5 now.
How many
or
rings
is it
does
6?
Tom Brady
He's probably
have?
got 6.
He's got 6. He's got 6. So
Hot
7.
dog.
You know.
It's a lucky number.
Fuck, 7 is
Lucky
so
number.
many, bro. That's so many. A picture like this.
And he's
I remember when he won the 6th one. It was like Dax was just an infant, and I watched it with him. Jordan slept, and I turned the game off as soon as the clock hit 0 because I wasn't going to watch him hold another trophy over his head.
Yeah.
It was at that point that I still hated Tom Brady.
I still
and
hate
I've
him.
come around now that I'm like, I respect it. You're the GOAT. Like
I respect
fuck with
him.
You.
It don't mean I
Especially
like
because
him.
he went somewhere else. Like he went
he's
somewhere
still
else
the
and
GOAT.
fucking dominated. You know. And I'm not
It's
going to
the
act like
Buccaneers.
Tampa didn't have a stacked team before he went there.
Yeah, that's true.
But they were also playing like shit with Jameis Winston and whoever
Yep.
the fuck was there. So
They needed a good quarterback, and they got
Tom
one.
Brady is the GOAT. The game is going to be fucking great, probably.
I would hope so, man. Chiefs Bucks
Man.
be a good game, bro.
So I'm
Feb
excited.
17th or 7th. We're
7th.
gonna be
We were.
on the road.
You guys.
Never mind. That's March.
Yeah.
February 7th. Yeah, so Sunday. What was that? 2 weeks? 3 weeks? 2
A
weeks
week from tomorrow.
A week from tomorrow. Hot dog.
So
Well,
that's it.
Don't
Tampa
get to-
Bay.
yeah.
I'm calling it.
maybe.
You think Kansas City? That's what you said. You really think Kansas City's gonna
I
win?
think if anybody is gonna put down Tom Brady, it'll be Kansas City this year.
Patrick
but
Mahomes.
Tom Brady's got it, man.
I think Tom Brady's gonna win.
He's always gonna win.
I'm calling
But
it.
he's not supposed to retire till what? 20.
45. Yeah, he's 42 now. So 3 years from now.
I wish if he would win the 7th, he would fucking walk away.
He's not.
But
going
you know
to.
what happens?
Drew Brees just retired. So did
5?
Phillip Rivers.
So he's got 5, 6 rings. This will be 7. 3 more years to play. 3 more fucking rings.
No
and then
way.
he can walk out.
No
Boom!
way. There is. I would put anything I own that Tom Brady
Can you
does
imagine?
not win 4 in a row. There is no way. That is impossible. That would be a feat never before seen.
What's his contract with the Bucks? How long has he got to stay there?
Oh, I don't know.
Because he might go
I'm
somewhere
not
else.
sure. Look it up.
Tom Brady
There we go.
Bucks contract.
$50
50
million.
fucking
So
million.
2 year, $50 million. So
2 year. So he's got to hang out next year, and then he can go anywhere else. So he'll
God
take the
damn.
Bucks to the
Every
bowl
penny
again
of it
next year,
guaranteed.
and then he's going to go somewhere else, and he's going to bring that team to the Super Bowl twice. So
I wonder if there's potential bonuses in there if he like wins the Super Bowl.
Oh fuck, I'm sure.
'Cause it's
How
all
thick is that
50
contract? You
All
think?
50 is guaranteed, full no trade clause.
Like I can show you what buying this house looks like, right? It's a stack of papers this big.
Yeah.
Right. I wonder what an NFL contract for a quarterback looks like. Is it that big? Is it that big? I mean, how
It's
many?
pretty small. I've seen him sign
That
it.
big? Yeah, it's pretty small.
Yeah. It's pretty
Fuckers.
cut and dry, you know.
We're gonna give you this
Play
much
this
money,
many games
or else.
do this, you
Or
get
you
this
don't do-
much.
Yeah, or you don't get this money.
Don't fuck around. These are the rules. I think that's it.
Okay.
So, okay, so quick GameStop, and then we're gonna get the fuck
Yeah.
out of here really quick. So GameStop, the company was about to go under because it's fucking GameStop. The model is tired. It's
GameStop there was a slight speculation in the market that the GameStop stock might rise this year because
Yes.
they changed the CEO. The CEO was new in January,
yes,
right?
it is the
And-
old CEO of Chewy, right?
I
Or no,
believe-
or was that afterwards that he joined the board?
Might have been afterwards. I don't recall. But
Either
there's a
way,
change in leadership
Chewy
that
guys
gave
on the board
investors
now.
a better outlook on it. They had a better speculation on it.
Yeah.
So anyways, which is because at this point I firmly believe that GameStop is a fundamentally different company than it was when it started. And they could still be an amazing company if they made right moves, but I don't know if they will. But anyways, somehow or other, a gang of people on Reddit that specialize in the stock market. They're
Wallstreet
called Wall
Bets.
Street Bets.
It's a subreddit.
Yes. Which I'm still not exactly. I'm more familiar with what is going on with GameStop than how fucking Reddit works.
Oh.
But we do that another day. It's just like some weird forum, right?
Yeah.
It's a giant forum, but
Literally everything. There is literally a subreddit for everything.
everything except the Donald. 'Cause they took that
Except the
off.
Donald. Yeah. You can't do that anymore.
So anyways, a gang of these people on Reddit found out that there was a massive amount of brokerages and investors that were short selling GameStop stock, which is, without going into too much detail, is essentially betting, which is not something that the stock market usually is. It is not a gamble. It is not a casino. That's not how this works. But in this particular case, when you're short selling, you are assuming that the stock that you are going to short sell will go down. So you're going to borrow somebody's stock for X amount of dollars, and then by the time you actually have to give that back, the price of that stock will be cheaper. So when you buy it again, it'll be cheaper. You'll sell it. You'll make some money. That's called short selling, and it is technically a way for the market to kind of correct overinflated stocks.
It's horseshit.
But it's also like, yes, that can work.
We're gonna
but
make
it
Larry
also
explain it more
requires
next week.
everyone who's a part of that short selling system to have pure morals and ethics,
Yeah.
which is
We're
does
gonna
not
make
exist
Larry
in the
explain it
financial
more
district.
next week.
So a gang of people, a bunch of firms were short selling GameStop to the tune of 140% of what it was worth. And these Reddit guys found out about it and decided that if they could essentially form what is essentially an online flash mob with a gang of people,
Coalition.
a lot of people put a shit ton of money into this.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people put like $100 into it, right? Everybody buys GameStop stock at essentially about the same time, and it skyrockets the price. So it goes from about $18 up to the highest was what, four something, talked about in the pre-show.
$400.
Yeah, over $400, right? Which
It's
means
thousands of percent, like a plus 1,000% increase.
And so if you're a big, hedge fund that is short selling GameStop at $20, you're assuming it's probably going to fall to 10. You're trying to double your money, blah blah blah. Now all of a sudden, when you have to go back and rebuy that stock that you borrowed at $20, and you gotta buy it back at 300 plus,
You lose a
400
fuckload of
plus,
money.
to the tune of $70+ billion to this point,
Yeah.
and it's still happening. Whereas all these people that are buying up all this extra GameStop stock are essentially throwing their money away
Right.
because they know it's going to come back down at some point, right? And the short sellers have to rebuy the stock, which again artificially inflates it. It's a whole long process that we'll really probably dive into with Larry. But anyway, so it's called a short squeeze, and we had a bunch of individuals band together, do a short squeeze on these hedge funds. They're losing billions of dollars. GameStop's just sitting back chilling because they don't actually get that money or anything like that. It's
Right.
that's not how that works. So they're just caught up in the middle of it. A gang of other stocks like fucking Blockbuster, AMC, AMC shut down by the pandemic.
Like
Blocks,
Motorola or something. Like
yeah, a
bunch
bunch
of random
them.
shit.
Most
Yeah.
of the ones that like
Just shit that
people
costs
that
nothing.
people that are
Yeah.
they're stocks that hedge funds are short selling.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
short
That's what they
selling is-
targeted so that
they
so
make
that
a shit ton of
billionaires
money.
would lose a bunch of money. And so after this
A
starts
lot.
happening, a lot of it was done through Robinhood, which is an app
Yes.
that allowed people supposedly to sell
Because you
trade
can-
freely, right?
Yes.
Which we talked
There's
about
no
earlier.
commission.
They're selling your information and shit so that
Yep.
they can make money.
Which is just now kind of coming out. A lot of people didn't know that.
Right, didn't really understand. And so after that happens, Robinhood starts making it so people can't buy more GameStop stock, can't buy more AMC stock.
And in some cases, forcing them to sell.
Selling people
Just
stocks
literally
off
stealing your money.
automatically and then just giving you a check and telling you,
Mm-hmm.
because of volatility in the market, we sold your shares for X amount,
Yeah.
and this is how much money you get. Which if you really don't care at all, then you're like, oh, that's cool because I just made a bunch of money. But
Mm-hmm.
also they're going to tax the fuck out of it because it's like capital gains, right? Because
Yep.
you just made a bunch of money in the stock market, so they're going to tax the fuck out of it.
Which is fine.
The
'cause it's gonna
dollar
happen
is
anyways.
increasingly becoming worth less and less money, so your shit doesn't mean anything anyway. It's horrible, right?
The real big problem is the fact that Robinhood, without their users' knowledge, sold off their investment
But
without their permission.
But if you were in New York at the stock exchange, you could still buy and sell
Yep.
and pay commission and do all of these things. But
Yep.
if you were a regular person, day trader who lives in their house or had put up their life savings or their stimulus check or something to
Yeah.
try and make more money, you were now fucked and either couldn't buy more and had to sell, or they forced you to sell, did it for you, and just gave you the money.
There's a weird correlation between
while
that and
billionaires
like
were able
social
to buy
media
more stuff.
cancellation.
Yeah.
Like when you get canceled on social media, that's kind of what that's like, except it's the financial version of it. So anyways, that's all going down. Hedge funds are losing a bunch of money. I'm sitting here fucking laughing, big old smile on my face. I understand that it's a problem that this is happening, but it's also good because it's showing these elitist fucks that, like, we know the game.
Right.
We understand how to manipulate markets just like you do, except we do it better than you.
Well, now the people who lead the markets, the NASDAQ, all the people are, like I said, we're calling for more regulation.
Yep.
Well, we think the SEC should investigate, because there's potentially collusion here with, people discussing on Discord servers. Discord shut down the Wallstreet Bets Discord server
for hate
said
speech.
that it was for hate speech. Shut down their Discord server.
Show me that
they
one.
Can't talk about what they're gonna do. Yeah,
And no one's really that offended by that because people have been getting shutting down for hate speech for so long. We're all kind of like, okay, yeah, you're just silencing us. Got it.
right.
We know how that
So,
works.
which is unfortunate, that it's gone on for so long that we're like complacent to it almost.
Right.
We're like, oh well, like
We
it's
know what this
fucking-
really is. You're just silencing them because they're making you lose money.
Yeah.
Got it.
So it's been a really odd power play by what we're just calling the elites,
Yeah.
of them trying to show the American people that they control the system, when at the same time the American people are like, actually, we still have a lot of play in what's going on here. So
People from like CNBC and stuff like that getting on there talking
Yeah.
about how, this is just so reckless of these people and
not
they're
safe.
so ignorant and they're not safe. And
someone's
it's
going
like,
to be left holding the bag.
let me flaunt my elitist talking points over top of you, you little plebs that don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're
Yeah.
playing with. You're playing with fire.
There was, I don't remember who it was, but they pulled the clip on Rising.
Yep, that dude.
It's an attack on the billionaires, and it's unprecedented. It doesn't make sense. An attack on the billionaires? You mean you were betting on companies to fail to the point that you lit 140% of the stocks? You were literally holding GameStop's face in the fucking puddle while it's suffocating.
Yep.
But the regular people are attacking you.
If
right?
they had their way in a number of years, not even number of years, but at some point, they could have absolutely purposely bankrupt GameStop.
There was one
Because
investor.
it's not a performer on the market anymore. They
Right.
have chosen you, and you are going to go down.
You are dubbed a loser. I dub you sucker. There was one investor,
Fucking
like a
figured
private
out.
investor, who made millions of dollars, and he was on YouTube and shit. He took his chicken tenders, he dipped it in champagne.
Tendies.
That's what they're calling them, big gains, tendies. Getting
Oh,
the
man, I
tendies.
love
I
it.
love that. I hate it and love it at the same time. That part of the internet that makes up their own fucking language.
Right.
Got to get my fucking tendies, bro.
Tendies. So
Yeah.
Massive transfer of wealth, except it's a small reversal of what we saw happen so far in the pandemic.
Yeah.
The poor get poorer, the rich get richer. In this case, the poor were stealing from the rich, which is fucking just icing on the cake, bro. I fucking love it. I love it. So I'm wondering where your line's going to come from today.
Yes. Let me pull it up out of here. Yeah, with that, I want to obviously
couldn't
remind
even-
everybody, thank everyone for watching us today. If you're watching this on YouTube, like us, subscribe us, rate us, review us, comment, share it, tell everybody about it, tell us how much you love us.
Or hate us. Don't really
or hate
care.
us.
Comments in that comment section.
Comments, say whatever you want. The reviews have to be positive.
Yes.
If you're listening to this, leave us a rating or review. If you screenshot your rating and your review and you send it to me, I'll send you a t-shirt. It'll be wrapped in beautiful Benic paper. I'll put something else in there. I don't know, maybe one of these note cards or something. I'll write you something.
$325 per share.
SaltOfTheStreets.com. You can find all of our social media, all of our information. You can obviously find our podcast on any podcast platform. YouTube.com, Salt of the Streets. Instagram.com, Salt of the
Spotify.
Streets. Spotify, Salt of the Streets. Facebook.com/Salt of the Streets. We have our personal social media. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter and Clubhouse, and at Alpaca_Donovan on Instagram, and he is at Big Bird Offie on all of those things. Again, SaltOfTheStreets.com for all this information. I think that's everything. So with that, Colin, I think all you care about is your name and carving it into the world so deep it will never, ever fade.
It's about right. It's about right.
That's what I thought.